Welcome to Mic Drop, the podcast where relevancy is irrelevant and we don't give a shit about your feelings.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's both an honor and a pleasure to bring to you my next podcast guest. She is a soon-to-be mother, a functional medicine physician specializing in muscle-centric medicine. She uses evidence-based medicine with cutting-edge science to restore metabolism, balance hormones, and optimize body composition. She attended the Arizona College of Osteopathic Medicine and is a board certified in family practice. She completed her research fellowship in nutritional science and geriatrics at Washington University. Is a national semifinalist in Fitness America, a professional fitness model, and a nationally ranked figure competitor. She's a true healer disguised as a medical doctor, and goddammit, she knows more about what I ate this morning than I do. Welcome, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. I know you guys came from halfway across the country, and I cannot thank you guys enough for taking the time out to come here, so I appreciate you making the trip.
Love Dallas.
Yeah. You guys,
love the dogs. Dogs are amazing.
Yeah, you guys gave a little tour of the kennel, and so they got to see the retired dogs and everything going on here at Tricos and Warrior Dog. So I always like to show everybody kind of the full experience here, because it is a bit of a unique place to record as compared to at least everywhere where I've done an interview. So we try to give people the full experience and maybe even fire up the barbecue here later. But
we better, because I'm pregnant.
Yeah, that's right. Eating for two, right? So I always like to start off with a little bit of a lightning round of ridiculous questions. So my first one is, what's the craziest shit you've ever seen go down at Walmart?
Well, the sizes, actually, of some of the individuals are beyond supersize, and the size of the clothing.
Yeah, it's more like a tent.
Yeah. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, that's one thing about rural Texas is I can't imagine in Manhattan there's a whole lot of, there's some weird shit going on, but the stuff that takes place at the Walmarts in Texas are legendary. I'm convinced about half of the ridiculous stuff you see on the internet, the people of Walmart, comes from Texas. But what's your favorite 90s rap song?
Ice Ice Baby.
Is that right?
Yeah. That's the only one I can remember, but yeah.
You're not a rap fan? Not super surprised. What do you love most about America?
Our freedom, our safety, our ability to speak what we want, to think what we want, and the capacity for impacting our fellow Americans is immense.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I always like to have either a gratitude question or something about this country. I think no different than, say, civics classes that seem to get lost on our kids nowadays. I think it's important to talk about what we appreciate, what we're grateful for, and it's refreshing to hear you hold those things true. Obviously, with you being a nutrition and fitness professional, I've got to know what your favorite cheat meal is.
Does ground beef count?
Hell yeah. Anything. Do you not eat a lot of ground beef?
I do. I eat a lot. Well, until I got pregnant.
Yeah.
And the first trimester is rough.
Yeah.
I would say if I could have any cheat meal, I would probably eat a bag of trail mix. Doesn't really count as cheating, but... Like
the traditional gorp, or like a special kind?
The raw trail mix.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That does it for you.
Really, really amateur hour over here.
That is kind of surprising.
I know.
I thought it'd be a little more
exciting,
refined than that.
Nope.
But hey, whatever floats your boat, right? What is, and this is the question I ask everybody, in terms of your morning routine. Now, granted, in light of recent events of being with child, I'm curious, like, what's the not pregnant normal morning routine, and then the pregnant normal routine?
This is interesting. There's only one thing that has changed.
Really?
With pregnancy. I wake up early, 5:45, and I meditate. Mm-hmm. And that is a 20-minute meditation. Following the meditation, I have a big red light. I have a Juve light.
Really?
And it's infrared and red, and it's photobiomodulation. Helps with mitochondria. I sit in front of it. Helps my eyesight. During that time, I write what I'm grateful for. That was pre-pregnancy.
Yeah.
Now that I'm pregnant, I write a letter or a few sentences to my child.
Really?
Yeah.
That is awesome. Is it kind of like, so you'll have like a journal that you'll give to them?
That's right. That's really cool. Right by my bed. So
yeah.
when they want to know what it was like
Yeah.
while they
That's
were in my
awesome.
belly. And then I call Shane.
Yeah.
And we talk about what the plan of action for the day is.
Yeah. So do you, from that point, so from 5:45 to say, 7 o'clock
Mm-hmm.
or thereabout, once that takes place, are you a workout or pre-workout eat? Can you walk us through that?
I fast in the morning. So pre-pregnancy, I would fast till 1 or 2 o'clock.
In the afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now being pregnant, you cannot do that.
Yeah.
And so I'll have some kind of cracker or food. It changes every third day because you can't eat the same thing.
Yeah.
You get sick.
Yeah.
I would say you know what I mean, but
Well, I've been witness to that more than once. So yeah, I'm well versed in the morning sickness routine for sure.
so that's a good one.
Yeah.
And then I train. I kettlebell train in the morning.
And that's yourself.
I train with someone named Melissa Paris.
Oh, okay.
Who specializes, actually, she happens to specialize in pregnancy,
Really?
but it's not why I started training with
Yeah.
her. She's just an expert in kettlebells.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So are you a multiple workout per day type of person?
I used to be.
Yeah.
I
When you
was
were doing-
easily twice a day.
Yeah.
I stopped competing a long time ago, but I still loved training
Yeah.
and have trained my whole life.
Yeah. I'm curious, and we'll get into kind of the intricacies in terms of how much protein you take in and macros and how soon after you work out and all that. But in terms of that morning routine, do you then after your kettlebell routine, which is about how long?
An hour.
An hour. That's a long workout.
It does involve swinging. Have you seen the TRX? I
Oh, yeah.
now have the new exercise
Yeah.
where you just swing back and forth. It's really fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. So an hour kettlebell, do you eat in a certain amount of time after that workout, or?
If I was not pregnant, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
There is evidence to suggest that you have more benefit oftentimes for women who eat closer after their workout.
Yeah.
And the other question is, why wouldn't you eat?
Sure.
In terms of muscle hypertrophy, and you've now increased blood flow to the muscle.
Yeah.
So you give your muscle nutrients.
Yeah.
The other aspect of that is fasting. I tend to fast, so I don't eat after I work out.
Right. But now that you're pregnant, even
I eat, yes.
Yeah.
I have to eat every hour.
Yeah. Jesus.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. Are you really particular in terms of what that is, or is it?
I don't have a choice.
Yeah. So you have like all these boxes that you have to check that you're making sure that you're getting X, Y, and Z type stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. So when I don't eat, I become incredibly nauseous.
Really?
Almost non-functional.
Huh.
And I'm someone who would go easily 16 to 18 hours without eating. No problem. I would eat in a time-restricted window, 6 to 8 hours. Now, I can have one kind of food.
Yeah.
And then an hour later, it should be something different.
Okay. So I guess in terms of how you break that down with carbs versus fat versus protein, and we'll get further into it, but do you focus very heavy on that in terms of post-workout or your meals in general, or is it
Of course.
now that you're pregnant, is it less that way?
I can't.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. There's an aversion to protein
Really?
during pregnancy for many, many women.
Yeah.
Myself included.
So not all women, just some.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man.
And it's common. So I went from being largely carnivore,
Yeah.
and I joked about this previously, to carbivore.
Or borderline vegan almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. There's so much to the hormone component, and I've got a number of questions both that I've genned up and other people have sent, knowing that you're coming on, that I'm excited to get into. But I always like to provide a little bit of background on each guest so that people can kind of relate and know where they're coming from. So as many questions as I have in terms of some of the functional aspects of what you do for a living, I won't spend too much time, but I am curious to know, just from a background standpoint, where are you originally from?
Chicago.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you grow up there your whole childhood and all
I
that?
moved when I graduated high school early, and I moved to Hawaii.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at 17. But previously, most of my time, all my time, my residence was in Chicago or a suburb of Chicago.
Yeah. And family-wise, siblings or?
Yeah, I have a sister.
Yeah.
She's amazing. She's actually a criminology professor.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
You guys are real underachievers
I
in your
know.
family, huh?
She went to Penn, speaks Chinese.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Is that for fun, or does that factor into her work at all?
Well, she applied to the FBI.
Oh, okay.
She ended up not going,
Yeah.
but then completed graduate work.
Yeah. Is she younger or older?
She's younger.
Is she into working out and nutrition?
She is.
At all? Or
She is. It's a natural thing for her.
Yeah. Does that stem from your parents at all? Like, were your folks that way, or?
Yes, they were. My dad went to Wharton, graduated top of his class, up for Rhodes Scholar.
So business guy, I'm assuming. Yep.
A little bit crazy, a lot crazy. He was a champion wrestler, All-American wrestler.
Oh, okay.
Pretty interested in nutrition. Same with my mom. We were very active growing up.
Yeah. Was there an element of you guys like having certain elements of nutrition and work ethic as it relates to physical performance that were instilled? Like, did you work out with your parents and stuff like that?
My dad is a guy of the land.
Yeah.
Growing up, we hiked and camped and ported canoes miles on end. By the time I was 5, I was riding 25 miles on a bike.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Good God.
Yeah.
At 5?
Yeah.
In Chicago, no less.
Yeah, in the suburbs.
Around
There's the little bike paths. I mean, of course, we would take breaks.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
25 miles.
Yeah. I mean, at least that's what he tells me. He could be lying.
Yeah.
But we were always very, very active and certainly disciplined.
Yeah. Did you or your sister play any organized sports growing up?
Yes. I ran track, did dance, gymnastics, soccer.
Yeah.
My sister was a track athlete, and then she also did martial arts.
Did you focus any heavier on any one sport or not, or did you just kind of dance? Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did that lead into anything going into high school or further?
So I danced in high school, and then when I went to college, I started doing Fitness America.
Oh, okay. So forgive my ignorance on the Fitness America.
No, I'm so embarrassed to even be talking about it.
I guess the first question is, from a dance standpoint, like traditional ballet kind of dance?
No. It was a mix between dance and gymnastics.
Oh, okay. So which leads into, I guess, the next question is the Fitness America. Like, there is kind of a dance element to that, right? It almost seems like it's kind of a modified floor routine, gymnastics-wise, a little bit.
Exactly what it is.
To me, that I've always been absolutely fascinated by gymnasts, both men and women, and in their perspective, strengths in each element of how it relates to gymnastics. And to me, like, I really can't think of a sport that is a better display of body to weight ratio strength and the control of your own body than that. I mean, it's the capabilities that gymnasts have is staggering. I mean, it makes me honestly want to slap my parents for not putting me in gymnastics growing up. You're welcome, George and Sandy. I'm just kidding. I love you, but
you would have been mad if they put you in ballet.
Well,
I just have a feeling.
Maybe I probably wouldn't be sitting here doing mic drop as a former SEAL. That's probably a good assumption. But all right, so I am curious in terms of the transfer, the crossover from high school and kind of, that critical point in a child's life where they decide this is what I want to do for a living. How can you walk us through that process mentally?
So I've always been really competitive. Anyone that knows me will know that is very true, including Shane sitting over there. I don't try to be competitive with the SEAL, but I do it.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, I graduated early because I wanted freedom. I wanted some time. I moved to Hawaii, and then I started training because I had a lot more time running, weightlifting. That's really when that started for me, and that was at 17.
Yeah.
I knew going into college what my major would be, and that was and is nutritional sciences. I spent a year in Limerick at the National Coaching and Training Center where they trained their Olympic athletes.
Oh, really?
And it was at that moment that I realized, and this was really early on in college, that I wanted to get back into competitive something. Mm-hmm. And I saw on TV, have you ever seen those obstacle courses? This was before Spartan, the Spartan races.
Yeah.
They had the Galaxy, or they had those obstacle courses. Yeah. And I saw that on TV, and I said, I can do that. And then the next day there was Fitness America, and I'm sitting in Ireland in my little cubby hole where they put the students.
Yeah.
And I said, I can do that. And then when I came home, that was it.
Yeah.
You cannot change my mind.
And so it was just full speed ahead at that point?
Full speed ahead. My routine, it was risky business. So
Really?
I came out, slid across the floor.
underwear and socks.
Oh, yeah,
across
totally.
The
I was like, wow, I hope I really don't slide off the floor.
yeah. So where were you at that point? Like once you moved back, where did you move back to?
I went to University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana.
And so doing that while you were doing the fitness thing, can you kind of talk about the fitness routines? Like what went into that at that time? Because this is in the late 90s?
Yeah.
So,
No one was doing it.
Yeah.
So I had to hire, and I knew that I was going to go to medical school.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes a lot of effort and a lot of time. I was studying full time, and I'm not the smartest person in the world. So my effort has to be extra.
Yeah.
Physics, I don't have a proclivity to physics.
Yeah.
So
well,
I would
you and me both.
nor math,
Yeah.
even though my dad was a mathematician.
Yeah.
I studied extra, and then I recruited someone who'd been a gymnast to help put together this routine. And I would practice that, 45 minutes every day. And that would then, on top of that, train and go to school. It was really a full-time job. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was eating, remember Metrex?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was eating Metrex bars.
Back in the early zone days, right?
Oatmeal with frozen broccoli and Crystal Light on it. It was brutal. Looking back now, I'm thinking, oh, man.
Yeah.
So I was dieting, very disciplined, taking the hardest classes that I've taken even to date.
Yeah.
And training.
Was aside from the routine training of focusing on and practicing that 45-minute kind of choreographed routine, was the supplemental training largely weight-based or
it was weight-based, and someone programmed that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was a typical bodybuilding routine.
Yeah.
And then it was another hour and a half of cardio. Talk about overtraining. Mm-hmm. We learned from experience, and I had none.
Yeah. Well, you can only learn, right? If you have nothing. I think back to that same time in my life. I graduated BUD/S in '97, and was a pretty scrawny kid growing up, and so I had that same mentality of looking back on it now, like, Jesus, I wish I knew half of what I know now back then. But I was killing myself. Yeah. And especially as a slighter built guy in high school, I really had muscle and fitness to go off of. That was about the extent of the knowledge, or I think Arnold had his encyclopedia bodybuilding out by then or whatever. But just looking back on it, it's crazy. I wonder though if, and I'm curious to get your take on this, 20 years from now, are we going to look back to now and be like, God, I can't believe we were doing that shit,
I don't know. It seems as if we have so much more access to information.
Yeah.
We're so much wiser now. You can pick up your phone and know 1,000 times more than we ever did in the past.
Yeah. You're not hanging out with the Dewey Decimal System at the library trying to figure shit out.
Hope not.
Yeah, God, I hope not. So was there a specific motivator other than just being competitive and seeing that on TV that one time? Was there anything that kind of just sparked internally for you that led you to that as a lifestyle?
I love discipline, mm-hmm. and I love executing excellence.
Yeah.
No matter what that is. Once I make a decision that this is going to be the target, mm-hmm. I stop at nothing.
Yeah. Well, no wonder you guys get along so well, right?
Who, Shane and I?
Like male and female, clones of one another almost. That's a good fit. To me, part of a big part of a relationship, and whether it's a romantic relationship, with friends, coworkers, whatever people, your circle of five or your tribe, whatever, catchphrase you want to use, you got to push each other and have similar drives or it just doesn't work. So,
when we first met and started dating, I would be up easily, I want to say 4:45, 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
I would put in 3 hours of work before his lazy ass ever got up.
You and I got that in common because the older I get, the more I enjoy not getting up early. I don't know what it is. I'll stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning, but I if I don't have to get out of bed before 8, that's my jam, I guess. But I don't know. I've just kind of always been that way. I'm happy to stay up later and sleep later. But all right. So so you as you're going through school and competing and doing all this, what were the next steps that kind of took you from that? And if you could kind of share some of the competition stories and kind of chrono from then into kind of where you're at today.
When I started competing, like we mentioned earlier, I had no idea what I was doing. I was really disaster zone all around. I stuck out that, went to find help from people that had been doing it.
Yeah.
And they were, remember the gladiators?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
well, it's like the Titan Games or whatever it is now, yeah.
Yeah, we have a really great friend, Kara Killian, who just competed
Oh,
in
really?
the Titan Games. She's
that's
amazing.
Cool. That's awesome.
So I found other competitors that had done it, really more old school. And I got mentorship from them. There was a great one, Beth Horn. She was one of the gladiators.
She did a lot of advertisements, right, for like fitness products and stuff.
She did. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, good memory.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I have for some reason. I remember shit that I don't need to remember. But
she is an amazing human being, and she helped prep me for some of my competitions.
Yeah.
Started competing locally. I did Milwaukee Regional. I did a couple very local competitions and won. And I remember one of my first ones when I was the Milwaukee Regional, and this was for Fitness America. So in order to get to the big stage, you have to win multiple little ones.
Yeah.
And I remember one where I won, like it was Miss Congeniality or something. One of like the nice, be friendly to other people.
Yeah.
And then I won the show.
Yeah.
And it was great.
That's cool.
And that kind of took me to Fitness America after doing multiple little ones.
Yeah. So one thing I'm curious, just because I don't know really much about that. These competitions, are they judged similarly to, say, figure skating, where it's just
it's all subjective.
So it's totally the judge's call.
It's totally subjective.
I'm assuming there's politics in it as well.
All politics.
Yeah.
And if I had known what I know now, I likely would have gone a different route of competition.
Yeah.
But can't really change my mind.
That was probably a good learning experience.
It was amazing. And then I went down and competed at the Nationals as a rookie, and I placed 12th.
Wow.
And when I was done with that, I said, that's it. I'm moving over to figure, which is more bodybuilding. And these are sports that are incredibly subjective.
Yeah.
And typically, the better you do in these sports, the unhealthier you become.
Sure. Is there an element of, on the female side, similarly on the male side, where people are just doing crazy shit?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, what can you give me give us some examples of like some of the crazier shit that you've seen people do to?
I mean, lots of eating disorders. A lot of smoking.
Really?
Yeah.
Like to
stay lean,
the appetite,
whatever they could do to suppress their appetite, drug use,
Yeah.
whether it was cocaine or other drugs.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't know this at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was so naive. I was thinking to myself, gosh,
Yeah.
how is this girl so fucking jacked? Right?
Are
Here
you
I
in
am
your
so
late,
scrawny.
Yeah. Are you late teens, early 20s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Early 20s. And then throughout it, I still wondered. I was really naive to that whole experience because I was full-time in school and not in the scene socially.
Yeah. So I guess the curiosity in me, I'm wondering, and I'm sure the listeners are, did that have an impact, I'm assuming, that kind of drove you to move past it at that point? And then so from there, where did you go? From
Fitness America, I went to figure, and that's really a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Because it is the discipline and the behavior is very addictive.
So it's like going from marijuana to heroin.
Yeah. You strive to become better, and then it shifts your perspective from performance. Mm-hmm. There's no routine to it. When I was doing it, there's no routine to then strictly physical judgment.
Just straight aesthetics.
Yeah.
So for that, I mean, there's essentially no functionality then, right?
No.
And so at that point, your workouts go from more gymnastics routines to more straight up like heavy deadlifts and like just trying to pack on as much muscle as possible.
And symmetry and shape. And it was all these things.
Yeah.
The dieting is extreme.
Can you give me some examples of that? Because one thing whether it's back then, I mean, I don't know if you know how they're doing it now, but What are some examples of that extreme nature that people would eat? I mean, is it like restricting fat to the point?
Talking about 8 to 1,200 calories a day.
Jesus.
With 2.5 hours of training. Now, I can't speak to what's happening now. I've been out of the game for a long time.
Yeah.
I can tell you my experience was probably 12 to 1,500 calories a day. And I was training 2.5 hours. That's not a lot.
And is that sustained, or are you going through like the bulking for 8 weeks and cutting for 3?
No, for me it was, and it wouldn't just be 8 weeks or 12 weeks. It was a year of competing. Nonstop. I was 8% body fat, 8 to 9% body fat when I was competing.
And would that have a similar impact like as gymnasts, where like it affects your hormones and cycle and all that?
I wouldn't get my period.
Yeah.
I couldn't sleep.
Would you get sick and joint pain and stuff a lot during that time? Or
Yeah. But you're so locked in, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You just push through it.
Yeah, man. I mean that. It sounds as brutal as it is from the sounds of it. But how long did you do the figure stuff?
Gosh, I did that probably 5 years.
Wow. Any permanent negative? Nothing.
No, I'm knocked up.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess joint pain or nothing made a full recovery.
It's interesting. Then I decided to do more functional training, and as you can imagine, the Fitness America and the bodybuilding style training didn't do much for my functionality.
Yeah.
So of course I decided to jump right into CrossFit.
Yeah.
And then train for Mark Devine's Kokoro.
Yeah.
Really bad idea.
Yeah.
And really competitive. Tore my right hamstring of Bowles, did 80%.
Jesus.
Tore both labrums and the other hamstring.
Yeah.
Broke my shoulder and tore the right one.
So you pretty much threw yourself through a tree shredder.
Correct.
In essence.
I probably should have stopped when things really started hurting.
Yeah. But so what was it just a competitive drive that was the whole reason for doing it? Where did that go from? So you go from fitness to figure, and then figure to CrossFit and doing the Kokoro stuff. At what point did you have kind of an epiphany and say, holy shit, I need to balance my stuff out? Was it when you got hurt?
Yeah. I couldn't walk.
And so from that point, how did you get from there to kind of where you're at now?
And this is just athletic-wise. Keep in mind, the entire time I did 2 years of residency in psychiatry, 3 years in family medicine, and then 2-year fellowship at WashU.
Oh, wow. So that whole time was, happening at the same time.
At the same time,
At the same time. Jesus. Did you sleep?
Not much.
Not much, like 3 hours a night?
A little bit more, and then you get pregnant and you have to sleep.
Yeah.
What happened was when I tore my hamstring, when I avulsed this one, it popped. So it snapped off the bone, or 80% off the bone. I was in a forced rest, and there was no other way to stop me.
Did you have to have surgery for that?
I didn't want to have surgery. Instead, I did 2.5 years of stem cell.
Really? And
with the best guy in the country, Brian Scheipel. If anyone out there is listening who
needs...
needs...
down in Houston?
He is in Pennsylvania. He does a lot of military operators.
Can you repeat his name?
Brian Scheipel.
Scheipel. How do you spell that?
Shiple. He teaches around the world what he does.
Sweet. I mean, I'm beat to shit.
He would do it for you.
Yeah.
He offered to do Shane as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
For the military, he offers his time, much like I do for my own medical practice.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's good info, and we'll put some links for everybody listening. All the stuff that we talk about, products we've got, we'll have show notes that annotates all this stuff. But that's great stuff. So that healed you up.
2.5 years. He really said I overachieved.
Yeah. Well, so I'm assuming that because it was 80 and not 100, that's why you had the ability to not do it, and you could regrow it from there. Because I just tore my left tricep 100% back in October. I had surgery in November, and I've got full range of motion, back in it now. But I had to have surgery for it. But they did the PRP treatment, and they did it in my other elbow just because I assumed if one tore, then the other one's probably not far behind.
Smart.
But, they feel pretty good now. So I've been taking a lot of the collagen that we'll talk about.
Great.
And I'm assuming that helps. But
It does. And with that, I actually failed 6 or 8 PRPs.
Oh, really?
And then they went to stem cell.
Yeah. And that progression is fairly new because of legislation, right? I know stem cells gets kind of a bad rap, but some of the...
Not if they harvest it out of your own body.
Yeah. Is that what you had done?
Oh, yeah.
So since we're talking about it, I will just dive right in, is that I know some places harvest it from like infant cord blood, and are you saying you'd recommend against that?
I'm not an expert in stem cell. I can tell you my experience that they harvested from my own fat cells.
Yeah. And that did the trick, though, right?
Yes, it's so painful. If you don't have a ton of body fat, it's very hard for them to get, and they can nick your muscle.
Yeah. What was the recovery time like from, how many treatments did you have, and how long did it take for that to...
Long time. I had easily 6 to 8, I can't remember exactly, PRPs. And then I had another 6 stem cell treatments.
Wow. And what was the course?
Each recovery is 12 weeks.
Jesus. So this was several, 2.5 years, you said? Yeah.
And sometimes I would train earlier, keep trying to train earlier, tear it a little bit.
Yeah.
He'd come back in and say, what the fuck did you do?
Yeah. Let's do it again.
Let's do it again.
Since you enjoy the procedure so much, we'll do it again. It's fascinating stuff.
It works.
Yeah. The guy that you recommend, is that something where I'm assuming you have to go to him? And,
you do.
Yeah.
With the military, he does. The military oftentimes flies him out.
Oh, okay. And so he has kind of like a mobile clinic kind of thing, or?
I don't know that they do. They set him up.
Yeah.
Sometimes he doesn't know where he's going.
Yeah.
He really is the best, and he is very good to the military.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. That's good
and
stuff.
if people call to schedule with him, they should definitely tell him that they're military.
Okay. Well, so you heard it here, folks. If you're in the military, or even if you're not and you want stem cell, then by God,
he is the best.
He's the guy. So. All right, so I've got a ton of notes. They're all kind of, I wouldn't say all over the place, but, I'm not breaking them down into categories, but there's a million questions of just kind of different things that I'd love to get your expertise on. Starting with just from a nutritional standpoint, and I know, we could spend a week talking about nutrition as kind of a broad spectrum component, but... and I know enough about nutrition to know that it's very similar to dog training in that almost every one of my answers starts with, well, it fucking depends. There's a lot of factors that are gonna dictate your answer. But
that's a great perspective.
Yeah.
I was looking at some of the questions that people had posted, and a lot of that answer is exactly what you said.
Yeah.
It depends. It depends on someone's baseline nutrition, their training volume, their training age, their blood work. Yeah,
and same with dog. It's like, it depends on the breed, the age of the dog, the environmental nerve, the drive it has, what they're, not just driven. I mean, there's a million things, but which I...
Twinkies are off the plan.
No, what? All right, this interview's over.
I saw that stash in there.
Yeah.
I'm totally kidding.
That's for my kids. No,
that's what they all say.
Yeah, no, that's for me. Who am I kidding? But I am curious from just kind of a 30,000 foot view nutrition breakdown. Everybody wants to know, which is better, paleo or keto? And again, it's like, well, fuck, what is your goal and where are you at now? But could you kind of synopsize the 4 that I have written down? Because from my perspective, they seem to kind of get the most attention: is paleo, zone, keto, and blood type.
Okay.
If you could just kind of walk people through your recommendations or whatever.
Zone is a safe bet for everybody. It's a 40-30-30. 40% carbohydrates, 30% protein, 30% fat. The lab that I came out of and who I trained under, Dr. Donald Lehman from the University of Illinois, did a lot of the early research on the zone.
Oh, okay.
With women who had issues with losing weight, postmenopausal women, which probably is not a huge population listening to this.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Okay, great. Okay.
There's some, but
it's a great starting point for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody new or well-trained athlete. You typically can't go wrong because it's very easy to navigate higher carb and lower carb, higher protein, lower protein on those things.
Is it safe to lump it into the category of A, retard proof?
Yeah.
And B, more forgiving? Like you can you have more right and left flanks to make mistakes without having drastic impedance on your
metabolism.
Okay.
Of course, that depends on the overall caloric intake.
Yeah.
If you run calories too low for a long period of time, your body will rise up against you. If you're at an 800 calorie diet, then that's going to be a problem.
What are the quickest manifestations, problem wise, of restricted calories? Like what are most people going to see first if they know, like, okay, I'm treading on thin ice here?
Absolute fatigue, disruption in sleep, hormones, low sex drive. We know team guys only care about good tea and hair.
Yeah.
That's out the window.
I'm screwed on both.
That's done.
Yeah.
And then anorexics that go longer get a fine hair, lanugo. You'll see. Mm-hmm. You can definitely see.
Yeah.
But the immediate issues would be, again, low sex drive, menstrual irregularities, obviously limited erections. If you are really low energy intake, nothing is working.
Yeah, your body just kind of
for an extended period of time. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that's a good precursor into the next. And for those listening, to summarize, like zone, you pretty much can't go wrong. I am curious.
And it's easy.
Yeah. Is there, and we'll get into some other recommendations, just the Barry Sears zone book, is that what you'd recommend?
Yep,
yeah.
Easy.
In terms of paleo and keto, I know, strict paleo almost kind of seems like it's keto in a way. The more strict you are, the more it's like keto. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, the ketogenic diet is very specific in that it's a high-fat diet. It is easily 70% fat.
Yeah.
It is low protein, 20%, if not a little bit less. People confuse paleo and keto in the concept that they're both high protein. They're not.
Yeah.
Ketogenic diet is 10% or less carbohydrates.
Yeah.
It's a very low carb, minimal protein, and high fat diet.
What is your overall take on it? Because from my perspective, I've tried it really strict for just shy of 3 months, and I never got over we'll call it the keto flu. My performance absolutely took a shit, and I never got to where I was like, okay, I'm over the hump. And again, at the almost 3 month mark, I was like, fuck this. I don't care, however much longer it's going to take, I'm not willing to wait.
Right.
I was sleeping like shit. My performance in the gym took a dive. It was horrible.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, to me, it seems like it's, you have significant medical problems or you're, crazy overweight or whatever. It's a great.
If you have brain injury, so the ketogenic diet was originally used for seizures in children. Then they extrapolated this diet for the public, and it can be good for healing TBI or brain injury. Dominic D'Agostino is doing a lot of research in that. In addition, if you are having cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's, dementia, those kind of brain disorders, this is a nutrition program that could be good for it. With that being said, depending on your genetics, some individuals, mostly men from what I've seen, can do phenomenal on it for a short period of time. It really is about individual variability.
Yeah.
And the women that I've seen who go on the ketogenic diet have a honeymoon phase, and this is not data-driven, this is my own working in weight management clinics, seeing weight management patients, have a honeymoon phase for a month. Mm-hmm. After that month, they lose muscle mass and gain weight.
Yeah. So it's almost kind of a Band-Aid for if they want to hit a short-term goal.
I don't even think it helps. Maybe.
Yeah.
Some women never, like you said, get over that keto feeling.
You calling me a woman?
Well, no.
Yeah,
definitely not. No.
It's interesting because that seems like it's one of the more popular, we'll call it a fad diet. I mean, it's not really a diet. It's a way of life, really.
It's got to work for some. And because it is so popular, there's so many people doing it, getting success, it must work for a percentage of the population. Just like veganism works for probably 2% or less of the population.
Yeah. That's interesting to hear you say that because, if you go off of, kind of pop culture or, internet frenzies, you would think that, veganism plays a much more important or stronger role in terms of its success, because it is it's almost political,
Right. It is political.
Yeah.
It is very emotional for people.
Yeah. Can you spend a few minutes talking about veganism, I guess, in terms of from a performance and health standpoint?
I believe, again, this is a belief of mine, that 2% of the population can do well being vegan.
Mm-hmm.
And the way in which that works, I have a very good friend who's an orthopedic surgeon, and she's a type 1 diabetic. I know there was a question about type 1 diabetes earlier in one of your posts. Type 1 diabetic who does very well on keto vegan. Does phenomenal. She is very rare.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of patients who come into my clinic who've been former vegans. And veganism is, obviously, everybody knows, no animal product. None of them feel well.
Yeah.
I very rarely have a healthy vegan come in and say, my dentition is good, my hair is not falling out, and I have good digestion.
Yeah.
In dealing with them, it is very challenging. They're my most challenging group because it is oftentimes a emotional, ethical drive.
Yeah.
And when an individual has that, you cannot give them evidence-based science.
It's like trying to talk somebody out of Christianity.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, my brother's a vegan. I'm right there with you. I bust his balls all the time. Love you, Jake.
But does he feel good? Maybe he feels great and healthy. And if that's the case, fantastic.
From my perspective, I'd say it doesn't work that well. But that's my take on it. In terms of some of the same things that you've described, I see some of those kind of same things. Whether or not he would say that, I guess maybe I can bring him on and we can talk about it. But
I've seen tremendous health problems
Yeah.
down the line. I did my fellowship in geriatrics, which I actually didn't want to do. And I don't think I've ever talked about that before.
Really? You heard it here first.
It was part of the deal of going to WashU to study nutritional sciences and obesity medicine. 50% of that deal was I had to do geriatrics.
Really?
And if you know anything about geriatrics, it's taking care of people at the end of their life.
Yeah.
Part of that was palliative care. You're at the bedside of hundreds of dying patients and families that are completely wrecked.
Sure.
The reason I bring this up is looking at those patients that were largely vegetarian, were so weak and so frail, had fallen, broken hips, go to the hospital, die of pneumonia.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Is there a single point of failure or kind of a routine, like this is where it starts, whether it's their immune system? Is it their immune system? Is what goes?
The muscle becomes sarcopenic, and it begins in people's 30s.
Yeah.
Sarcopenia, which is the loss of muscle, and then there's a portion of that is also a loss of strength. And the tissue becomes like a marbled steak. Mm-hmm. And as you age, if you do not resistance train and eat high quality protein, that tissue becomes destroyed.
Really?
And muscle is a metabolic organ. It's the organ of longevity. It's not just for locomotion.
Yeah.
It's an endocrine organ. When you contract it, it secretes things. It's responsible for your resting metabolic rate, the amount of calories largely that you burn at rest, responsible for a large amount of fatty acid oxidation. So individuals that have high cholesterol, the muscle is key.
Yeah. When you talk about it getting to a marbled steak type of point, is that irreversible or?
I think that's a great question. I don't know that answer.
Yeah.
I think, again, my opinion is we can always improve because strength, you can gain strength back.
Yeah.
It becomes harder and harder as you age. It becomes more destroyed. As every time you get injured and go on bed rest, it continues to decline. And that tissue becomes very hard to recover.
Yeah, the older you get especially. Right?
And if you are vegan and vegetarian, forget it.
Yeah.
Absolutely forget it.
Yeah.
So that is why I'm not a fan of those two, based on being at the bedside of these individuals who are dying.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense.
It's preventable.
Yeah. Was there any cases of people that were in that state of their life that you said, hey, if you fix this, were there any success stories?
In the hospital setting, no.
Yeah.
In my clinic setting, absolutely.
Like you have vegans come in and you completely turn them around.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to send my brother to you, probably.
And they said to me, I have one amazing patient. Her name is Nina. And she came and she's like, I cannot believe I was doing that celery juicing every morning, largely fruit all day long. And now I eat bison at every meal. But
awesome.
It transformed her life. And she was flexible enough, mentally flexible enough to go, wow, I feel like fucking shit.
Yeah.
And I'm done with it.
Is that the biggest problem, I'm assuming, is it's the mental battle with them?
For that.
Yeah.
But typically those individuals don't land in my office.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't
It's not a good, it's a little bit of a rough visit.
Yeah. It's as soon as you're honest with people, then they say they want you to be honest until you're honest, and then you're just an asshole, right?
I'm an asshole every day, all day long. Shane, no comment.
Yeah, well, but I'm right there with you. I mean, because it's actually kind of ironic. I think the similarities in some essence between dog training and nutrition, that there are a lot of parallels that way.
And people training.
Oh yeah, I mean, I get called an asshole all the time because people don't want to hear that they're fucked up with their dog. They want you to, affirm or reaffirm that what they think they're doing is right and it's not and whatever. But all right, so the two we kind of talked about paleo a little bit. What's your take on that as kind of a general?
Ketogenic diet, I've seen affect male hormones in a very negative way. I've seen it lower testosterone. Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
I've seen it affect lipids. You don't want that either.
Yeah. What in terms of paleo, I guess, thumbs up.
Paleo is a concept of the foods that you choose. It doesn't discuss macronutrient partitioning, which is key. Mm-hmm. It's no gluten, no dairy, no peanuts. It's really kind of the way that the hunters and gatherers used to eat. Yeah. I think it's great. I think as a baseline food choice, it is an elimination of a lot of allergens that we have.
Sure. Do you think that, and this is as much probably my opinion as anything, but it seems to me like paleo is one of those things too, where similarly to keto or even veganism, is that it works really well for some people and not very well for some.
I've never seen, once calories are controlled for, I've never seen paleo not work well.
Even from a performance standpoint.
No, because paleo can have carbohydrates. Yeah. It's all about the amounts that you're having. It shouldn't be high fat. It should be typically a ratio of foods. And if you get that ratio right, you do well. Yeah.
So in terms of, I guess I'm curious, zone paleo, can you eat both?
You absolutely can. And that would probably be the best way to go.
Yeah.
If you're starting out.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have on that list the carnivore diet, which before I got knocked up, that would be my go-to.
Really?
Yeah.
There's a question, this is for you, Mitch, asking about the carnivore diet. So tell us about that. To me, that's a fascinating way of eating, to see people eat nothing but ribeyes and bacon all day long. Or like this guy, he's a business partner of mine that I think just got done doing a 30-day cycle of that and lost a ton of weight. And can you talk to us about that?
You bet. High protein is an excellent choice. I'm not saying that the carnivore diet, because it doesn't have any vegetables, and I think that there's a need for that. I think that carnivore diet long term for your whole life may be suboptimal, especially with fiber, those things. For discrete windows of time, I think it's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
The reason I think that is because I've seen that in clinic.
Okay.
And I've seen it with myself. And it's not necessarily high fat, it is high protein. And we know that protein increases metabolism. It helps with increasing that fat oxidation. It is the basis, those amino acids for neurotransmitters, for the amino acids for gut health. It really provides the fundamental building blocks for everything.
Yeah. It seems like, in hearing you talk about it, like I'll use me as an example, coming off of a surgery in a period of the longest, relatively speaking, inactivity I've had in my adult life, because it's the first surgery I've had,
Congratulations.
Yeah.
The
first legitimate injury I've had where I've been down hard for a few months. That, as you're talking, that brief window like that would be a really good springboard back
to
do like a 30-day 30 or 60 day carnivore diet to get back into the swing of things?
It would. And you should be supplementing with a multi, omega, vitamin D. There are some basic supplements that you should have.
Yeah.
Of course, it doesn't have vitamin C
Yeah.
or any kind of phytonutrient.
Sure.
But again, a short, discrete period of time. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. That's good advice. And for people listening, take heed to it, because obviously you know what the hell you're talking about. Blood type diet. That one's always fascinated me a little bit too. I'm O positive, which the way I understand it is that's kind of the hunter, the oldest blood type. What's your feeling?
There's no data to support that it's accurate.
Yeah. So it's
the concept is amazing.
Yeah. It sounds good.
The data does not support it.
Have you had any clients or people that came in that had adhered to that pretty strict and that were a total fucking mess?
No.
Really?
Again, it is eliminating a lot of food allergens and taking away foods that Pop-Tarts are not on the blood type diet.
Bullshit, by the way.
Sorry to disappoint.
Twinkies
Donuts
and
might
Pop-Tarts.
be.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I know, it's out.
Yeah,
By eliminating these foods really helped those individuals.
Yeah. I mean,
and I've tried it myself.
Really?
I'm AB positive.
Yeah. So what does that, I guess, what are the differences just from a kind of a generalization standpoint between each blood type and what they're supposed to eat?
I wish I knew more. I can't quite remember because I don't use it.
Yeah.
I know that mine was largely vegetarian,
Yeah.
some bullshit like that.
So it didn't work too well for you? No, I don't doubt it. Is there any other kind of mainstream diets those are the ones that I wrote down, but is there any that you would like to talk about or you think are worth talking about?
There's an interesting diet called the fasting mimicking diet, and I think that's gaining more and more popularity.
Okay. What is that all about?
That is a 5-day mimicking fast. Fasting can be very good biologically for the body. Again, I don't necessarily recommend fasting if you're older. Mm-hmm. If you are over 45, 50, and you are postmenopausal or you have an injury, you should not be fasting.
Yeah.
Because you are not able to stimulate that tissue. Fasting mimicking diet can be excellent every 3 months to help lower inflammatory markers, give your bowel a rest. It is based on methionine restriction. And I know I'm not an expert on methionine restriction. It's one of the amino acids. But I have done it myself, and I have seen it lower inflammatory markers, improve blood lipid profiles for individuals.
Yeah. So with that, it's interesting that you mentioned the post 40, 45. Why is there a reason other than that you're not stimulating that tissue to not do that? Because to me, not that I know a ton about it, but it seems a little counterintuitive, I guess, to think that, as you get older and your metabolism slows down, to me, it seems like it would be more important to do it then. Why would it not be, I guess?
The fasting? Yeah. You want to protect your muscle at all costs.
Oh, okay.
You can fast so if you are, over the age of 65 and you're doing 5 days of fasting, you're not doing the right thing.
No shit.
Every time you destroy that tissue, the older you get, the harder it is to rebuild.
So with the people that to play devil's advocate would maybe come with the counter argument of 65 years of sustained abuse on your GI system, colon, et cetera, is that a factor or is
I'll feed you medical food. Let's go.
What's that?
I'll feed you medical food.
All right.
Let's take a drink.
Threaten me with a good time.
Yeah. But to fast, there's other ways to help bowel rest or help the bowel as opposed to not feed them.
Okay. So it's not necessarily the lesser of two evils, but this is more important than that, essentially.
Maintaining muscle tissue as you age is the most important.
Can you expound on that?
Sure. As you age, you get something that happens called anabolic resistance. It's very interesting in the media and the culture that we are at right now. Everybody's focused on young, 30s, 40s, CrossFit, training, Spartan racing, all of this stuff. There is age group 15, the silver sneakers. They don't have much attention.
Yeah.
So they're training, they're doing, jazzercise or whatever it is,
Water
Zumba.
aerobics.
Right. Not working. That's not effective or efficient for muscle strength.
Yeah.
When you hit this point, and we don't know exactly when it is, but as you age, you get more insulin resistant in the tissue, in the muscle. It becomes harder to maintain that muscle because the nutrients, the protein that you eat, you require more of it to be absorbed.
Yeah.
There's more tissue, there's more taken up in the GI system, and less gets to your blood. Less splanchnic extraction, as you will.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to actually ingest more protein as you age for it to get to your muscle and stimulate the pathways to grow and repair.
So with one of the questions I have written down later, but since you're mentioning it, the subject of protein, I'm making an assumption here, but are beef jerkies and meat sticks and things like that, can you kind of rank or dispel any the preconceived notions of protein as protein? Like, I'm assuming those are probably less bioavailable or healthy or whatever. Is there anything to that? Or
only the nitrate? Only the nitrates.
So if you get like ostrich sticks that are preserved with celery salt, like, that's fine.
I prefer. There's something called AO Bio or something. I'll give you the name, and they're actually just dried beef sticks.
Really?
They don't have preservatives. They're done fresh.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
That would be your go-to. My personal and professional opinion is the less processed meats, the better.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think that we know everything that goes into it and happens with it, and the quality of the meat. It usually has some kind of filler or something.
Yeah.
I think having meat that you make or buy that is actually meat and probably not, I don't know, knee joint or something weird.
Beef pizzle.
Is key. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Also, charcoaling and grilling your food is not good. It has carcinogens.
Well, so I see. I'm an avid griller here, and maybe this is outside the wheelhouse, but to me, I'm assuming that there is a difference between if you're grilling meat over charcoal or fire of any kind, where it's beneath it versus, say, a salamander or top-down broiler. From your perspective, is there a difference, or is it just
only if
burnt
it gets
tissue?
burnt? It's the burnt tissue.
That sucks to hear. I gotta tell you, because that's the good shit.
You know what my grandma used to say?
What's that?
If it tastes good, spit it out.
That's bullshit.
I know. Well,
yeah.
I love you, Grandma.
That's a hell of a way to live. That's bad news for me. I mean, I'm still going to eat it, but maybe a little bit less. But I mean, how significant is that, do you think?
Significant. There's pretty good data on that.
Logan, are you listening to this? That's some bullshit.
We'll find some links. I'll send it to you.
We're in deep shit here in Texas, because that's pretty much what we do with everything, is put a hell of a crust on it.
The other part is there's a genetic component to everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some people are more predisposed to...
Absolutely. Sure. You hear those people that smoke their whole life?
Yeah.
And you're like, how do you not have cancer?
Yeah, and then there's other people that don't smoke.
Right.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Is there while we're talking about protein, like the gels and powders and shit like that? I know you said, the less processed, the better. From my perspective, I've always kind of adhered to that philosophy of the closer it is to being, normal, natural, whatever, the better. But
because you have to chew when you chew your food as opposed to drink it, it can. I mean, obviously, it takes longer to digest, but it stimulates all the gastric juices, those kinds of things,
enzymes and shit.
Mm-hmm.
For like protein powders, or muscle milk or things like that, with I think it's carrageenan or something that's fucking horrible for you, or supposed to be. So
whey would be a great protein, and if you can't tolerate, the reason I like whey is because of the amino acids.
Yeah,
it has a good amino acid profile, probably one of the best, and it has enough branch chain amino acids that it will stimulate your muscle.
Yeah.
If you are vegan or vegetarian,
choke yourself and then
and then call me. Just kidding, I can't help then. Or cannot tolerate whey, you can do a rice pea blend with augmented amino acids, and that works just as well.
For men especially, soy and vegetable-based protein.
I'm sure the data is somewhere in the middle based on genetics. If if this is more estrogen dominant for some individuals, it depends. But I don't think that, everyone talks about meat being treated with these hormones. Yeah. But if you look at soy or pea, you're talking estrogen levels that are way higher. Yeah.
To me, that's the irony of it. I mean, the marketing campaigns, and again, it kind of boils over into the political realm of veganism and what have you. But But yeah, I mean, I've seen plenty of vegans or vegetarians that, you know, will spend a fucking hour lecturing you on how bad meat is while they're like, you know, shoveling fucking processed,
right,
you know, shit that has, you know, 3 paragraphs of ingredients,
right.
90% of which you can't pronounce. I mean, to me, it's ironic, but yeah, I'm still fucking reeling over the no crust on my steak. That's
Listen, we'll give you a vitamin C IV. You'll be fine.
All right, so supplements. Obviously, there's a million of them out there. Actually, before we jump into that, is there a brand of whey protein that you would recommend?
I like First Form.
First Form, okay.
They're going to be coming out with a new health line, which will be amazing.
Yeah, okay.
And we should talk about collagen, too.
Well, yeah, so collagen.
Is that later on?
Well, it's in this next section.
Okay.
Supplements and, I mean, I maybe it's not a supplement.
It is. It is. I don't count it as a protein.
Yeah. So supplements, generally speaking, there's a million of them out there. Can you kind of,
yes,
you know, just cut through the bullshit
totally.
and say,
No
here's
bullshit.
what's worth taking?
The foundation of your house needs to be put in place. So let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
You should have a good multivitamin. You should be taking vitamin D, omegas. Should be taking some kind of, if you're training a lot, an antioxidant blend, which has vitamin C, and a good probiotic. Never hurt anyone. That's really kind of the few supplements would be great for everybody.
Yeah. Can you recommend a brand or two of any of those?
Any medical brand. So First Form is a great brand. There's Pure Encapsulations is phenomenal. I use that for a lot of my patients that have allergies.
How do you identify if something is a...
It has to be available through a healthcare practitioner.
Okay.
I don't recommend buying things on Amazon.
Or Costco or whatever.
No,
Yeah.
do not. The quality of the supplement that you have is key. I've had patients come in and say, oh, I've been taking, I don't know what the fuck that was going on. I've been taking 10,000 IUs of vitamin D and I get it and I get their blood work and it says 22.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of regulation of these other supplements.
Yeah.
But if you go through a reputable brand, like Bubs, like Metagenics or Pure Encapsulations or First Form, you're looking at what they say is in it is in it.
Yeah, okay. That's good to know. And I take most of those. I don't do an antioxidant.
Vitamin C would be great for you
Yeah.
if you're, burning it.
Yeah, burning
Shit out of
steaks.
us,
So,
yeah.
well, that's actually good to know. So there are things that, if you partake in or are, more, you consume something that's bad for you more than others. Like, are there any other examples? So, like, if you're listening out there, you're in Texas, you're a barbecue asshole like me, a lot extra vitamin C to counterbalance.
Glutathione, it would be another phenomenal. Glutathione is the master antioxidant in the body.
Glutathione.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And it is phenomenal. I use liposomal glutathione. It is phenomenal for detoxification processes in the liver. It is good for free radical damage. I put all my athletes on that. I put all the military operators are all taking glutathione. Johnny, if you're listening, you better have your fucking glutathione. I'll kill you. I'm still waiting on my supplement list from him.
Does First Form sell that as well?
It does. First Form does have a liposomal glutathione.
I promise First Form isn't paying us.
Nope.
They should be, but they're not.
They're an amazing company and amazing human beings.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. The other thing that I often recommend is ashwagandha.
I don't even know how to pretend to spell that.
Me neither. ASH. That is something that I also use for all the operators.
Yeah.
And anyone that has a lot of stress, it helps. It's believed. I don't think that we don't know the mechanism of action exactly.
Yeah.
But it helps regulate the hypothalamic pituitary axis.
Can you say that one more time?
Ashwagandha.
Ashwagandha. Maybe Siri can help us out.
I bet you the kid that got that on the spelling bee totally failed.
That's awesome. All right. So to kind of summarize, antioxidant, a good multivitamin, a vitamin D, omegas, First Form whey, if you're going to take away a liposomal glutathione, glutathione, and ashwagandha.
That's a great foundational. If someone comes in, they say that they're taking that, they have a really good solid program.
Yeah.
Then if you wanted to add digestive enzymes, if individuals are fatigued after they eat, most people have low stomach acid, and you tend to have low stomach acid as you age.
So would that maybe this is the counterintuitive asshole in me, but for people that have like GRD or reflux, is that because they have low acid and their stomach is overcompensating?
It depends.
Yeah.
A lot of people with acid reflux actually have low acid.
Yeah.
And digestive enzymes help with that.
What is a good digestive enzyme to take?
First Form has one. Pure Encapsulations has one with hydrochloric acid. They both do.
So if you go on First Form or the encapsulation one, you just type in
digestive enzymes with HCl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of what?
HCl.
HCl.
And I can help include any information you guys need.
What's probably going to end up happening is she's going to write a fucking book report after this.
No problem.
For the show notes, but
it'd be good foundational.
Yeah.
Obviously, check with your healthcare provider to make sure you don't have any allergies. I'm just saying this because it's what I'm supposed to say.
Like CYA.
Yeah.
Can you order First Form without going to a healthcare provider?
You can.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
I think that's a really good baseline program for individuals.
So to summarize up until this point, because if you're anything like me,
I don't know if I can remember.
You have to compart. Well, I've been taking notes.
All right, good.
So if you started out on a paleo-based zone and had the supplements that we just talked about, and then we'll get into kind of an exercise regimen too, but that in terms of, to recommend to everybody to start out with excluding any of the anomaly outlier types that have problem X or are allergic to Y or whatever, but that's kind of the good general spectrum recommendation.
They would do well with that.
Yeah.
Get a good solid program.
Okay. All right, so collagen. This has been something that really in the last couple of years, at least from my perspective, having not really seen it up until fairly recently, we'll talk about the brand that you and I both know very well and I use every fucking day, but can you talk about the benefits of collagen and potentially dispel any myths out there about it?
Collagen is, number one, it's not a complete protein. I like that we're not talking about collagen in terms of a protein source because it is deficient in the branched chain amino acids, which is necessary to stimulate muscle growth.
Yeah.
What it is phenomenal for is a lot of good data on skin and repair. I think that we're going to see a lot more data emerging from hide collagen, which is what Bubs is, as opposed to bone.
Yeah.
And really figuring out where the sourcing comes from is key.
Yeah.
And if it's being derived from what part or which part of the animal.
Yeah. One of the benefits I know for me and I've seen other people have similar success with is from a GI tract standpoint. And I'm the first to admit, I have no idea how that works. Do you know the...
I don't think that anybody knows.
Yeah.
We know it's high in glycine, proline, and a hydroxyproline.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to set this out. If you're listening and not watching, go to the YouTube
and
channel.
And for the ketogenic diet, this is a really great MCT oil.
Yeah, I've got that written down as well. In terms of the collagen, though, I noticed from a regularity standpoint, a bowel movement standpoint, like it's absolutely beneficial. How the hell that works, I don't know. But I know for me, the skin, hair, nails aspect, very noticeable. I've never had any face work done, but I know, like, if I'm taking
allegedly,
that stuff, supposedly, I think it's pretty obvious. I've not had any done, but I do notice a big difference. My skin seems to repair itself easier. I'm not as dry skinned, and the biggest thing I notice. I have a shit ton of body hair, but like I notice it's less coarse, like it's almost like silkier, like it's fucking conditioned. I don't know how I'm going there right now, but the other thing is fingernails though. Yeah. Like holy shit! Like
so these are all collagen. What you're saying? These are all places in which collagen is required.
Yeah, and so in terms of kind of as you get older, it seems like. Just like testosterone and other hormones, like your body produces less collagen as you get older.
It does.
So for those of you listening, Bubs, she recommends it. I use it. I've been taking it. I mean, I use the MCT oil and the collagen powder every fucking day. I am curious, is there a too much
I've never seen it, and I don't think so. Wait, let me backtrack. There were early studies in the 70s where when people only consumed collagen, they got deathly ill.
Really?
You cannot consume collagen as your only protein source.
Yeah.
That could kill you. I mean, it is very deficient in some of these amino acids.
What would be a symptom if you were taking too much and not?
I have no idea, because hopefully nobody is using that as only their protein source, and that would likely only happen if you were having liquid food where all your amino acids were controlled.
Yeah.
I don't think that would ever be happening nowadays.
Yeah. Okay. Any other supplements or, actually, I guess since we're talking about Bubs, one of the things they offer also is the MCT oil. Now, I don't think this is a placebo effect because it wasn't something like I just thought it was good fat. One of the things I noticed on this, and I know that they advertise for it, but I found pretty surprising was the cognitive benefit.
Yes.
And one of the things, not ironically, but interestingly enough, I always make sure, I have kind of a pre-podcast routine. I make sure that I have a shit ton of that in the morning or at least, 5-6 hours before I'm going to do it. I take quite a bit of it anyway, but I absolutely notice a difference. Like if I travel and I don't take it with me or whatever, I don't have it for a few days, there is kind of a fogginess. And I notice an enhanced mental clarity while I'm taking it. It
increases ketones, and ketones are fuel used by the brain. Absolutely. I've seen it work. There's some good data. We used to use a form of MCT in our brain clinic at WashU to help with cognition.
Yeah. Is there kind of a summary of benefits that MCT oil offers?
Absolutely. Number one, helps with cognition, energy, fat in terms of being a fat that is utilized. It's utilized differently than, say, other fats. It almost burns more like a carbohydrate.
Yeah. Well, and it burns cleaner that way too, right? Here's the one thing that I'm confused, and I think probably a lot of people are. Maybe it's a common question you get, is that MCT oil or coconut oil or derived from that is actually pretty high in saturated fat, but it's not the same as like animal fat.
Well, saturated fat is saturated fat. MCT is not saturated fat, so it's it's derived from coconut oil. And the issue with saturated fat is, like anything, too much is not good.
Yeah.
I do not recommend high saturated fat diets unopposed with anything else.
Yeah. Back to the protein thing, is there a single source of protein that you would say you use this over everything else? I know it depends on the person.
No, the best source is ground beef.
Yeah, your cheat meal.
That's the best thing.
Yeah, but you want it fairly lean, I assume?
I do, yes. Yeah. And I don't always need to have organic.
Yeah.
I'd rather have the protein than all the fat, and it's definitely hard to get.
So mentioning the organic, I am curious, that's one of the things you see all the time about, people recommend it's got to be this, it's got to be that. What is your take on organic versus not?
If you look at the actual data, the hormones that are treated for cattle, they cannot have hormones in the bloodstream that are detectable in any way that would be harmful for a human days before they're killed.
Yeah.
They don't have high levels of estrogen or all this other bullshit that you're hearing.
Yeah. So in other words, it's a fucking crock.
It is. But now, if you take that out, if we think about why is it happening, what they do is they try to conserve resources so that all the cattle are the same size, and they're using less land and less time and less variability so that they can conserve energy and conserve the land.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't necessarily eat non-organic. I will if I have to.
Yeah.
But in terms of it being demonized the way that it is, that's not accurate.
Yeah. So it's not as big of a deal to eat organic as marketing makes it out to be.
If you were to look at, people talk about conjugated linoleic acid, CLA, as one of the things that is beneficial in grass-fed beef. If you look at the data, it is the difference between 0.8 versus conventional having 0.1.
So minimal.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fucking splitting hairs.
It is.
Yeah.
But then you consider the treatment of the animal, how they're grown, all of those things.
Yeah.
That's a whole different story.
Sure.
But if we were to actually look at the meat,
yeah. That's interesting. I mean, that's good to know, because I'll throw the dog reference in, like dry dog food as an example is a very good case study in brilliant marketing. It's largely crap, but there's certainly better ones than others. But you see a lot of these like grain free and other buzzwords, I guess, that go into some dry dog foods that have people spending 3 times what they really need to spend on it. But
I prefer organic.
Yeah,
I'm a sucker for marketing. There you go.
Yeah, but the data doesn't really back it up.
The data does not, in terms of the hormones.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know for sure. The next kind of thing I wanted to delve into, talk about, is hydration. Chronic hydration seems to be one of the biggest, at least from my standpoint, I guess, one of the biggest detractors from performance and overall health. What is your take on hydration as
chronic overhydration or underhydration?
Under.
Yeah.
Like dehydration.
You're confused about if you're hungry or are you thirsty.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you don't have water, you die much faster
Yeah.
than if you didn't have food.
Sure. From a performance standpoint, and again, I know it depends on, your body weight, your age, your activity level, the fucking ambient temperature, all of those things. But is there kind of a guideline of you should be drinking X?
Everyone says, your body weight and your body weight in ounces or whatever it is. What I tell people, I don't know if there's data to support this, but really, you should be drinking till you feel hydrated and continue. By the time you're dehydrated, you haven't drank enough.
Yeah.
Right? You're behind the 8 ball.
Sure. Is there an element of, because one of the things I have written down to talk about is like the liver detoxes.
I don't do any of those.
Well, yeah, I mean, so my opinion is they're total horseshit.
Yeah, your body, glutathione would help, quote, liver detox.
Yeah.
And you also have to say, what are you detoxing from?
Yeah. Well, I guess my uneducated opinion is that nothing is going to do as good a job as your liver, right?
That's true.
As long as you are, I mean, to me, the one key element though is hydration. Would you say that
Absolutely.
is accurate?
Hydration is incredibly important, and then having nutrients to support it when we're talking about detoxification, which would be, say, protein.
Mm-hmm.
Protein helps upregulate your ability to detoxify.
Yeah.
Glutathione, it depends on what it is. Are you taking a bunch of medication? Then your body would be detoxifying itself.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt to help it. I mean, I'm sure that there's some benefit with ancient traditional medicines and herbal remedies that can possibly help those things. But I think if you're doing the fundamental things right, then...
Sure. Yeah, balance, right? The last thing I wanted to mention before we get into kind of more exercise-based stuff, just as it relates to nutrition, supplements, et cetera, is bloating, gut flora, probiotics. I know we talked a little bit about the digestive enzyme HCl. Mm-hmm. Is it me, or does that seem to be something that seems to plague
everybody?
Everybody. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I have never had a operator that I've seen not have a significant parasite, including the one to my right.
Oh shit! You dirty bastard!
They all come back. It depends on where they deployed. And what's interesting is the operators all have almost. I've never seen one who didn't have pathology.
Really?
Whipworm, roundworm.
No shit.
Giardia.
Yeah.
Entamoeba histolytica.
Are these things that, I've been out for 10 years, that you could be carrying like the whole fucking time?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's encouraging. So I need to go get
Probably get your tush swabbed.
Yeah,
Yep. And it's incredible. So people will take digestive enzymes, not get better. Always have this bloating, not get better. We'll do a SIBO test, which is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth test, not get better. Be treated for it, not get better. If you have done all of these things and you're not getting better, you have a fucking parasite.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Would it be irresponsible to just take Pyrantel or some sort of deworming?
Yeah. You have no idea what you got.
Yeah.
He had, can I tell you, he had whipworm and Entamoeba histolytica.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
It's for sure. It's curious because the places they send us and the shit
and
we
the
eat and drink, and
absolutely.
it only makes sense. It makes me not really want to get something shoved up my ass, but
it's worth it.
It's worth it.
Sushi individuals, and then say non-operators, anyone that's eating anyone who's ever been to a third world country or often has gotten food poisoning, it is not necessarily transient.
Yeah.
People always believe that it's salmonella, but what seems to happen is you lower the body's ability to fend off any pathogen that you get, and you typically get another infection.
Yeah.
And you don't know it.
So if for me and anybody else out there listening that maybe has been exposed or has kind of those similar things, you would go to the doctor and ask for.
You would go to a parasitologist.
Okay.
And I would recommend and I have looked all over. There is one in New York City, and he is like 900 years old. He has hair out of every orifice. Yeah. I really hope he doesn't listen to this.
We would get along well.
He's an amazing physician. His name is Dr. Kevin Cahill.
Okay.
He is old school. And I actually asked him to teach me. Mm-hmm. He said no. I mean, I guess it would really change my relationship with my patients.
Yeah, bend over.
So nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Take your pants off. Luckily, he refused to train me.
Yeah.
He's old school parasitologist. Nowadays, the infectious disease doctors will do a stool sample or a blood test.
Yeah.
Those are not nearly as accurate as actually doing a scope, taking a swab, and looking at under a microscope.
Yeah.
Nobody does that anymore.
So, I mean, no different than that at a vet's clinic where they take it's like a plastic 8 inches long with a little eyelet.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, okay. So what would you, just a stool sample?
Yeah, and people come from all over the world to see this guy.
So I'm cutting corners here. Could a vet do that?
That would be amazing if they could identify it.
I have a vet that would probably do that for me. No bullshit. But they would look at it the same way, right?
Yeah. You look at it under a microscope, see what you got.
Dr. Kraft, if you're listening, we're about to get real fucking close, my man.
But it's amazing. You just could not believe when individuals have been everywhere and they don't get better.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, to me, like not to get off on too big of a tangent, but like I've felt bloated forever. Like,
well, you got. I mean,
who knows? We'll figure it out. Dr. K and I.
So Mike's going to be visiting me in New York City. 2 docks down. Be swinging by Dr. Cahill. We'll all get along.
That's right. Getting the band back together. All right. So transferring into kind of actually, there's one thing I wanted to talk about that's still kind of in the supplement realm before we talk about like equipment and some exercise type stuff. From a thyroid, pituitary gland, hormone replacement therapy, TRT, that kind of stuff.
I'm a big fan.
Can you speak to that, just
Absolutely.
kind of generally speaking?
I think that as we age, typically, and for guys, even for females, testosterone goes down. Hormones get lower, everything turns into a mess and people suffer. Or individuals that have used steroids in the past can no longer make their own and they suffer.
Yeah.
A lot of physicians, I think, are often against hormone replacement. I am absolutely not.
Yeah.
When I say that, the caveat is we're not talking about pushing them into super therapeutic levels, right? There are super physiological levels. We're talking about keeping them in an optimal range.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Would you say that it's imperative to, once you get to the point where you need supplementation to have it be sustained?
Depends on what your goal is. If you want to have a baby and you're a guy, you don't want to be on testosterone therapy the whole time.
Right.
You want to take a break, go on Clomid or HCG, take testosterone for 3 months, take a month off.
Yeah.
But there's no harm in doing it, and you shouldn't suffer.
Yeah.
And if your levels come back low twice and you've taken these labs in the morning, then you should be on supplements.
Yeah.
Or you should be on hormone replacement therapy.
In terms of human growth hormone, that's something that gets thrown around a lot in the media for sports and things of that nature. Obviously, that's kind of a different animal, but what is your take on that?
I think a lot of people use it. I don't in my clinic. I use an analog called CJC. I think that it's safer. And you, of course, have to test your IGF levels. You have to test your IGF-1.
Yeah.
Got to make sure it's in a therapeutic range.
Yeah. So similarly, like keep it optimal, but don't let it get too low, but you don't want it too high either.
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thyroid, pituitary gland. I admittedly don't really know shit about it, but I wrote it down because I know it.
Thyroid is, women feel thyroid, men feel testosterone.
Yeah. Okay.
Thyroid supplementation, in terms of taking, it is a kind of hormone replacement. I think that it is absolutely beneficial and necessary.
Yeah.
Very rarely do you see a healthy thyroid.
Really?
almost never.
Is that because of a specific, is it aging? Is it the environment?
Aging lowers the effectiveness of the thyroid. There's these thyroid binding globulin that increases, and you don't have as much thyroid. Or if you are very overweight, you can have something called thyroid resistance. That's the same with vitamin D. The heavier you are, the more vitamin D you need to actually get into the tissue.
Yeah.
But these things are all necessary.
Yeah.
And people have a stigma that medicine is bad. It's not.
Yeah. I mean, to me, we were talking about it before we started recording, but some of the travesties, I think, that exist in Western medicine of being okay, of, doping somebody up on opioids, but not giving them, testosterone replacement or even,
You have to get to the root cause.
Yeah.
And the kind of medicine I practice is really to identify what the root of the problem is and not treat the symptom.
Yeah. I mean, it's like with anything, and again, to throw, because there's a lot of dog training listeners in here, it's the same when I get questions about, my dog's doing X. It's like, well, the problem is actually 5 steps ahead of that. It's your relationship or lack thereof with the dog that is why he won't fucking sit for you. It's not because you don't know how to teach him how to sit.
I wonder if that happens with kids too.
For sure it does. No, it does. Yeah. I mean, I will say this, from 0 to about 3.5, when you can start to really explain things to kids, training, raising dogs, and raising kids is the exact fucking same. It really is.
We will be calling you for parenting advice.
I mean, it really is. And I'm happy to help. But, all right. So, one other thing, food sensitivity tests. Do you think they're worth a shit? And
I think if you feel that you've got it, just eliminate the major allergens: egg, corn, soy, dairy, and peanuts. So would you say just do that instead of getting a sensitivity test? I think that the sensitivity tests are variable depending on your gut health.
Yeah.
If an individual was going to do a sensitivity test, I would recommend that they do something called the lymphocyte reactivity assay. It's called the LRA.
LRA, okay.
And that is not a food sensitivity test per se. It's an immune response to the foods that you're eating.
Okay. Where would you have that, something like that done?
Various providers around the country.
So you just Google LRA test.
LRA test.
Okay. Genetic testing?
Can be great. I use it often.
I don't know shit about it. Can you kind of explain what that even is, like how that works?
What you do is I use a program called Opus 23. And I'll have someone...
Sounds like a government project, like a secret fucking alien project.
I've had people that said they're not sending in their genes because they don't want it to be sold to some countries I won't say.
Yeah.
You'll do your 23andMe and Ancestry.com. They can do that online. And then you run it through a program called Opus 23. Some practitioners use NutraHacker. And it will give me a list to the best that we know. Again, this isn't a science where we know everything about it. I think it's in its infancy. And it will give me information so I know, for example, ashwagandha.
Yeah.
I'll know if that works well for you.
Just from that test?
From the best that we can assume. So you're not wasting your money.
Yeah.
It will tell me if you are at risk for Parkinson's and what we can do about it if there's any intervention possible.
Yeah.
It really just lays out, or if you need more thyroid.
Does it have the ability, like Lou Gehrig's and things like that also, or is there limits to...
I haven't looked. Actually, I've never looked for Lou Gehrig's. I think that because it's so vast, I look at things like rheumatoid arthritis or macular degeneration, things where they are modifiable.
Okay. And probably things that are maybe a little more common too, because I know Lou Gehrig's is not exactly...
Breast cancer, those kinds of things. And then, of course, what supplements would be beneficial for those individuals.
Yeah, okay. And that's something that you provide?
I do.
Yeah, okay. All right. While we're on the topic of things of that nature, vaccines, flu shots, anti-vaxxing, what is your take on...
I think that individuals should do it.
Yeah. I mean, so do I, but I guess, what about flu shots? To me, I don't ever get a flu shot.
I don't ever get a flu shot.
But regular, the standard vaccines you're okay with? You don't have the...
I mean, I tend to get them preservative-free.
Yeah. I didn't even know you could, actually.
You can always ask for preservative-free. I don't know much about pediatrics, but I know when I have my child, I will be vaccinating.
Yeah.
But I may not do it in the schedule that they recommend because I think that there can be some issues with that. Of course, I'm not an expert in this subject, but I think that vaccinating your child and
Yeah.
That's responsible.
Yeah. No, I agree.
But of course, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I have one of my best friends doesn't believe in vaccinations, and I support whatever her decision is.
Yeah.
You
To me, I guess, this is a bit of an oversimplification, but it's like schools now, or in today's day and age, it's like you can't bring a fucking peanut to school, but you can bring fucking measles if you like. It's like, how did we get that fucking twisted, But
I mean, this is the first time in history that we have so much information and, more importantly, misinformation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a double-edged sword for sure, and most people know just enough to be fucking dangerous. One thing we were talking about women and thyroid. Just there are a number of female listeners. I am curious from a menstrual cycle standpoint, like the term of PMS. Anytime a woman's in a bad mood,
It's real. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, can you talk to, I guess, the hormone effects or the effects on your hormones, rather, I guess, that menstrual cycles? Because I know, there are some women that their menstrual cycle, it fucking ruins them, And
that's typically when you see estrogen dominance, which is obviously one of the female hormones, or progesterone dominance. In order to have a good assessment of the situation hormonally, individuals should do blood tests a week before their period, as well as get something called a Dutch test.
Yeah.
And this will give you hormonal byproducts. That is not the standard of care, this urinary test, but I found it to be incredibly helpful, as well as something called a 28-day cycle test.
Okay.
This gives us all the information so we can look at what hormones are making them feel this way. It might not always be estrogen.
Sure. For those tests, it's similar. Like, where would somebody go to do that?
To their provider.
Just regular provider, and say that's what they want? Mm-hmm. Okay. So a blood test a week prior, Dutch test, and a 28 cycle test.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Good. All right.
And if women's hair is falling out, if they're constipated, cold, oftentimes they need a full thyroid panel. If practitioners typically just get a screening, a TSH, I always recommend getting a free T3, free T4, antibodies, and reverse T3.
Which would all fall under the full thyroid panel?
It would be a full thyroid panel.
Okay. That's fantastic. Autoimmune disease, is that...
it's a real thing.
That and like the rise in allergies, asthma, ADHD, things of that nature. Like what's your take?
Lot from what I've read and what I've seen, a lot of it is digestive in nature.
Yeah.
You eliminate the pathogens. There is tons of information out there, from tropical diseases or pathogens in the gut to skin infections, allergies. It's all over. You just have to Google it in PubMed. You would be shocked at what you find.
Yeah, but no different than building a good foundation is that if there's issues and you're continuing to feed them, they're never going to go away, right? So,
and a regular GI doctor will not test for that.
Yeah. So where would you go?
You go to infectious disease.
No shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad I'm writing notes, but
I'll send you. Hey, got a spot for an opening for patient.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be happy to send all this.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's going to take some of that. One thing, just because of the community that Shane and I both come from, and I'm curious, with modern medicine, with opioids, NSAIDs, antibiotics, obviously there's a time and a place for them, but do you think that the stigma associated with them is not necessarily realistic, but warranted? Or have you seen permanent effects from any of them in any of your patients where their use of any of those has caused significant irreversible problems?
Irreversible problems, I haven't seen a ton of. I'm really trying to think. I mean, addiction is really a hard one.
I guess outside of like physiological, outside of addiction, like whether it fucks their brain up or antibiotics screwing up gut flora.
That's all fixable.
Yeah.
The body is incredibly resilient.
Yeah.
And if you know what the perpetrator is, then you can address it.
Yeah, okay.
If you know the underlying driver for inflammation, then you can address those things.
Yeah. Okay. Moving from, or before we move from kind of the supplements and the kind of general Q&A, before we get into some of the exercise recommendations, is there anything that you can or would want to add that we haven't discussed as it relates to food, nutrition, supplements?
Knowing your body is key. And if you're doing something that's not working for you, don't keep doing it.
Yeah. Okay.
I see this all the time.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for this long. I'm like, why are you still doing that?
Been doing this 12 years and it still doesn't work.
Should, probably try something different.
Yeah. I've cut it twice and it's still too fucking short. What? All right. So moving into exercise, again, I know that it's...
This is probably the most variable.
Yeah.
Because nutrition, we know that a moderate high protein diet is going to work for largely everybody. Regardless of your weight status, hormonal status, it's going to work.
Yeah.
Exercise is a whole different bird.
Mm-hmm.
This depends on injury, past injuries, ability to recover, nervous system, training status, volume, sport.
Yeah. I guess the big question I have that I want to have your input to provide to the listener is similarly to the breakdown that you gave us on nutrition. Is there kind of a, generally speaking, and I know you kind of just addressed it, but even having said that, is there like this is a good starting point for most people?
Strength training, hands down, getting with a great coach.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you're a novice, you should be putting in effort.
Yeah.
Data supports effortful training, especially as it relates to resistance training.
Yeah.
And I'm all about weightlifting and maintaining that muscle, if not growing it. Right now is the time to do it.
Yeah.
Because as you age, and it becomes much harder.
Yeah. So if you could kind of define or separate the difference in terms of resistance / weight, because I think even for me, like there's maybe a little gray area in terms of would body weight exercises.
I don't actually count that.
Really? So like
No.
push-ups you wouldn't count as
I don't.
resistance?
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. What the...
We were trying to go to dinner, and he's up. When I got to work out, he's doing pull-ups and push-ups. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's going to take forever.
Yeah. Well, so...
No, I don't. It should be squat, bench, deadlift, moving heavy weight more than your body weight.
So I guess I'm curious, though. I mean, obviously, that's better than nothing.
It
right?
is.
But is there a kind of a benefit to saying that using that as a supplemental?
Absolutely.
So you do, say, 3 days of heavy weights and 2 days of lighter resistance?
Absolutely. It does allow for recovery,
Yeah.
especially if you're going for hypertrophy.
Yeah.
And it keeps you mobile and capable.
Yeah.
And that is also important.
Sure. Is there... I mean, obviously, we talked a little bit about CrossFit, but is there a system, program, any type of recommendation you could say, try this first? If you're not doing shit and we're taking your recommendations on food, on, supplements, all the other things that we've already discussed, could you do that same thing for exercise, or is it too many variables?
I think having a good foundation, getting with a good trainer is key.
Yeah.
Because you need a kind of a leader. If
Yeah.
you haven't done this and you're starting from scratch, you need someone looking over your shoulder to make sure, A, you're not going to hurt yourself,
Yeah.
and B, that you have a well planned out program, even
Yeah.
if it's a beginner program.
And agreed. I mean, to me, it's like with anything. I mean, if you're learning to do something, you need somebody to
You need a
teach you.
coach.
What would be your simplest recommendation to inform somebody how to find a good trainer?
Word of mouth is always best.
Yeah.
I have my people that I use and I always refer out to.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that they're excellent. So everyone should be vetted. You should find a trainer, get a word of mouth, and then talk to two other people that this person has worked with.
Yeah.
And see results. I see a lot of trainers who work with individuals who never have any results.
Yeah.
Part of that is the patient,
Sure.
but part of that is being a good trainer. You have to know how to get the best out of someone.
Yeah. So word of mouth, is there any internet resource or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone wants an automated program, Layden Norton has a great automated program online. He's very evidence-based, which I love. Of course, Charles Poliquin has he's a strength coach, a former strength coach. He passed away. And he has a whole online community where there are trainers that are certified by him, CSCS, and of course, my two favorites, which are Kara Killian, who you should definitely have on one of the Titan games. She's incredible.
Well, if you can send her our way, we'll definitely have her.
She's absolutely incredible. Yeah. And then Melissa Paris. The other component to that is you should have someone who does body work.
Yeah.
Who can look at your breathing patterns and do soft tissue for you. Person I use in New York is Urban Wellness, Emily Kybird. So if you're going to work so hard to do these things, you should be maintaining yourself.
So is that more on like a recovery standpoint or what?
Functionality. I wouldn't have torn both my hamstrings if I'd been moving appropriitally.
So it's almost like a movement coach.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Oh, and breathing. A lot of it comes from the core and the belly, which I now have a large one.
It's only going to get bigger.
Oh, God.
And it's going to start moving if it hasn't. What's the name of the of that type of coach?
I would call it, what would you say, a movement coach? I mean, you can use a chiropractor or, I would say functional movement.
Okay. So if you Googled functional movement coach.
And please vet your sources, vet their experience and education.
Okay.
There's a lot of non-expert experts.
Yeah.
You don't want that. You will be injured.
Yeah. Shit, you can go on YouTube and find a bunch of those fuckers. One thing that I specifically wanted to wait to talk about in terms of how nutrition plays into exercise, that there's a ton of information and a lot of it is conflicting, is protein intake. We talked about kind of the quality of it, but I'm can't wait to get your take on when to take it, and is there an amount? And I know it's going to depend, but
no, actually doesn't.
Is there not?
There's only two major. Of course, I just got excited. Go ahead.
So
talking about protein, this is exciting.
Well, so you finish your workout and you see some people's like, within X number of minutes you need to have X number of grams of protein, or the 100 grams a day is a good, no less than that, right?
Right.
For everybody.
For everybody.
Can your body only use a certain amount?
Uses all of it.
Really?
It uses all of it.
So you could take 100 grams once in a day and that
you probably would only get max benefit from 50.
Yeah.
Let's break this down.
All right.
Protein is the king macronutrient, and it's also the black sheep.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone is very emotional. It has a face. You have to kill it. It is very challenging for individuals. When you think about it as the most important macronutrient around the world, protein quality is what determines the quality of the diet.
Okay.
In America, we're really lucky. We're not at a loss of it.
Yeah.
When it comes to the total amount, 100 grams should be minimum. However, distribution, meaning how you break that up, is key. In order to maintain your muscle tissue and optimize body composition, you want that range to be between 30 and 50 grams.
Okay.
Man or woman.
Yeah.
It definitely depends on your protein target and how many times you're going to be feeding. But if I am going for a muscle protein synthesis or something that is going to hit my muscle, I don't go below 30 grams per meal.
Does size play a role?
It's more based on blood volume.
Really?
Yes.
So
a woman my size still needs
more than you'd think.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm 5'1". I was 123 pounds. I don't know what I am now. Rather large.
Yeah.
But a woman my size compared to Shane, who is, if I say anything less than 200, would be very upset at me. We still both need a minimum of 30 grams to maintain muscle tissue. My recommendation for total protein intake is your ideal weight. Either if you're lean, so if he's 200 pounds, he could easily get away with 200 grams of protein.
Yeah. And try to break it up in 30 to 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably more like 50, and then he eats 4 times a day.
Yeah. So on that too, then with, eating, does it matter from a protein synthesis standpoint post-exercise that it should be within a certain amount of time?
What I believe is going to be coming out in the research is that women are much more sensitive.
Yeah.
And they actually need to feed earlier.
Okay.
They train. Protein is the most important macronutrient post-training for muscle repair.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks carbohydrates is. It's not.
Really?
For men, you probably can push that window longer. Mm-hmm. There's some data to suggest it doesn't matter when you have protein. You could have it anytime as long as it's within that 24-hour window.
Yeah.
But the question to that would be, why do that? We know as you age, you absolutely the closest you can get it post-training, you need it.
The older you get.
The older you get, because the blood volume and the blood is all ready to deliver nutrients to the muscle.
Well, that's good to know, because I think the one thing that a lot of people as they get older, or even whenever, is that I think there's probably a conception, albeit maybe a misconception, that, okay, I finished working out, it's 12:45, I want to wait 3 hours because I'm fat burning, right? Is that total bullshit, or?
Not a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, fat burning is in a 24-hour period.
Okay.
And if your muscle is primed to get nutrients, it's the time.
So feed the fucking machine.
Yeah.
All right. That's good to know. That's good advice. I know, like I said, there's, like you've said a couple of times now, like there's so much information out there, and a lot of it is conflicting. It's hard to be able to sift through it and know what the fuck is what. But all right, real quick on well, actually one thing. Well, we'll skip that. I'll come back to that. Joint health, stretching, yoga. Any type of preference, recommendations you have on any of that?
If you're hypermobile and you're really flexible, you likely don't need more yoga.
Okay.
You will injure yourself. I mean, I did.
Yeah.
If you are that individual, strength training would be great.
Yeah.
If you are super tight, like a lot of the guys, having them utilize yoga or other techniques could be very beneficial.
If you need a fucking shoehorn to get flip-flops on, chances are you might want to go to a Bikram studio sometime.
Right.
Joint health, and I don't think we mentioned anything like glucosamine, turmeric, stuff like that. That is one.
It's hit or miss. I've seen it really depends on your genetics. It's what we're finding more and more.
It works great for some people, and is irrelevant for others.
And that is just based on things that we don't really know yet.
Is that a try it and see what happens, or a certain test can help with that?
We are getting more and more advanced where we can test the genetics and look at those things, but that is not on a regular basis right now.
Yeah, okay. That's all good stuff to know. Again, one of my favorite subjects: sleep, recovery, overtraining. I had Jeff Nichols on. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Mm-hmm. He threw the number of 7.5 hours was kind of from the studies he's seen. I'm curious, what's your take on? Obviously, the quality of sleep is important, but what can you tell us about sleep?
Everybody has their sleep set point.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, I don't need 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
I used to never eat 8 hours of sleep. I would be at 6 to 7. I would be up.
Yeah.
For me, I need less. I know some guys need 10 to be recovered.
I need like 15. I'm going to be honest with you.
But that's a great average. 7.5 to 8 hours is average.
Good starting point target.
Yeah. I mean, so when you sleep, it allows your brain to recover.
Yeah.
We know that if you are deficient in sleep, not only do your hormones suck, but also your cognition in terms of dementia and later life issues increase.
Are there supplements or nutritional, whether it's fucking magnesium, I mean, I don't know. Are there things that help you get better sleep from a nutritional standpoint, other than the obvious, be balanced?
In terms of food, or you mean
either, anything?
One of the best supplements that I've ever seen is called Phenibut.
How do you spell that?
P-H-E-N-I-B-U-T. Okay. Might be an extra I in there.
Yeah.
Shane says no. He's a really good speller. I'm the good at directions, and he's good at spelling. I can say that because I'm talking to you. He's not going to come here and tell me to be quiet.
Phenibut.
It is a GABA agonist, and I have seen it knock 95% of people out.
No shit. And it's all natural.
Mm-hmm, it is.
Where do you order that at?
Ordered online.
No shit. So that you would be okay with ordering from Amazon?
There's something called Cabanase. It's a product called Cabanase by Neuroscience. I have never seen anything work better.
So Cabanase by Neuroscience is Phenibut?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure a 2x4 to the head would probably work, but it seems much safer.
Yeah, maybe not as effective the morning after. What is a GABA agonist?
It is something that stimulates GABA in the brain, and it allows you to relax and get into that sleep mode.
So my curiosity now is I know, Shane and I's comrades in arms, many of us have been prescribed Ambien and Lunesta.
This works much better.
And it's not, it doesn't fuck your head up.
It does not fuck your head up.
Because that stuff does. I mean, I know.
It does. I take people off of it all the time.
Yeah.
I swap this out I have never heard a complaint.
What is it? Take an hour before bed or
30 minutes?
30 minutes,
Yeah.
and just knocks your ass out.
And you might need more than one. You
Yeah.
might need 4 or 5.
Yeah. Half the bottle. Is it expensive?
It's not.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to try that shit just because.
Oh, it's amazing. I will send you a script for it.
Oh, great. So it is a prescription. Oh, okay.
But I can
Yeah.
give it to you at discount.
Oh,
Shouldn't
awesome.
say that, but
Well, hell yeah. I appreciate it.
thanks for the future steaks.
Yeah. Oh,
And dog. Shane is going to give me one of those dogs. The
I got you covered.
personal protection dog.
Yeah. We'll give you one of the retired dogs. You can pack it up with you. One that it'll remind you of like the scene from Vacation.
We already have 2 of those dogs at home. I don't know.
One thing on sleep that I'm curious of, I use and swear by a Tempur-Pedic mattress. Like to me, if I'm not on one, I sleep like shit. Like when I travel, it sucks because I just don't sleep the same. But are there any other kind of either products or things that you can recommend for aiding in sleep and recovery? Light diffusers, Himalayan salt lamps, fucking whatever.
Shamanism.
There's a ton of shit out there. Like I don't know what's good and what's not.
I will only tell you if you promise not to make fun of me.
That's probably not going to happen.
All right. So there's something called the chili pad.
I think Jeff mentioned that it's like a water cooled thing.
I love it.
Okay, so that works really well.
It works phenomenally well.
Yeah.
Also, blocking out any sound using wax earplugs, not regular earplugs.
Really. Mm-hmm. So for me, like I either use the sound app on my phone if I'm somewhere else, or I'll turn a fan on even in the dead of winter for the noise.
Try it without. Try complete sensory deprivation.
Really?
Mask. Wax earplugs. I will tell you, we have a joke in our household. You're not a true operator if you don't travel with your CPAP machine.
No shit.
If you've jumped out of airplanes,
Yeah.
chances are you will have some kind of sleep apnea.
Really? Mm-hmm. To me, here's my biggest problem with that is I can't sleep on my fucking back.
I hear it all the time. You can try to sleep on your side. They've got more advanced machines. Should definitely, anyone who is listening who is ex-military, jumping, shooting, any kind of ballistics, should all be worked up for sleep apnea.
Diving have any impact?
Yes.
Same thing?
Yes.
Is there a brand you'd recommend?
No, you just have to, whatever's covered by your insurance. They do have ones that are now smaller, but it is absolutely key. And it's interesting if you go to the doctor and you find that your blood sugar is running high or your insulin is high, oftentimes I see it correlate with really poor sleep.
Really? Mm-hmm. So it's not the box of Swedish fish that I ate so much as it's
killing me. No.
Himalayan salt lamps, I have to ask. Total
pretty.
bullshit.
I don't know. They're pretty.
Yeah.
Supposed to have negative ion charge. I have no idea.
Yeah. What is the thing you mentioned? The red light thing? Can you tell me?
Yeah,
about?
the Juve light.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes, it's JOO1V.
I already spelled it wrong.
Got it. I love it because I used it once and I thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
And then I'm sold, of course. But it is photobiomodulation. And it's believed, and there is some data coming out about these things. I do my best to be evidence-based. I'm not always right, but I really try. And then I correct myself when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And it helps with mitochondrial health in the skin, also helps with skin rejuvenation, eyesight, which then relates to brain function. And it's amazing. I don't use it before sleep.
Can you walk us through the process of like how do you use it?
Stand butt ass naked in front of this huge wall.
So it's almost like a tanning
huge panel. It's a panel.
Okay.
Not a wall.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing if I had a wall. It's a panel, and you do 10 minutes each side, and I do it twice a day.
So you just stand there. So it's almost like a tanning bed.
Yeah.
Kind of. Right? Okay. 10 minutes each side, and do you eyes open, eyes closed?
Eyes open.
Okay. Obviously, if you turn your back, it doesn't really fucking matter, right? But that's interesting.
It is. It works really well.
And you notice a big difference?
I do.
Yeah.
I notice that it affects my eyesight. My eyesight is better.
So do you have that like in a bedroom? Like you wake up and the first thing you do is yeah?
I do that. I write my letter to my future baby.
Yeah.
And then I call Shane, probably yell at him about something that I've just made up, something that happened overnight.
Do you notice a difference in her on the Juve light versus not?
No.
I think so.
Yeah, maybe.
I think eyesight.
Yeah. What, are they expensive?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good news, huh? Like how expensive?
I think mine was $3,500.
Holy shit! Is it like you got to replace bulbs and shit? Or
I
what?
haven't yet, and they have a 90-day guarantee,
Yeah.
money back guarantee.
How long have you been using it?
Almost a year.
Yeah.
Maybe 8 months. Maybe 8 months to a year.
Yeah. That's
I love
interesting.
that. I think it's great.
So the chili, do you have a mattress you recommend?
I got the avocado.
I don't even know.
I have tried many mattresses
Yeah,
because I didn't want it to smell.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have gotten a Tempur-Pedic mattress, but reading all that stuff, I was like, again, said, a sucker for marketing. I don't know what is in those mattresses.
Yeah.
But I got an avocado mattress.
Yeah. Is that similar, like a temper, like a memory foam?
It's supposed to be a natural Tempur-Pedic.
Okay. You mentioned meditating.
Yes.
And this kind of leads into the next mental health kind of topic that I wanted to cover before we start to wrap it up here. But can you tell us, from your perspective, the process in which you employ meditation?
I meditate twice a day, and I actually learned meditation when I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
I did TM meditation, and now it's progressed to not even mantra, just stillness, quiet, or I'll use a guided visualization meditation.
Yeah.
I find that it slows the mind down and it allows me to respond rather than have crazy reactions to things.
Yeah.
And you become much clearer. Do you meditate?
I don't. So you said it's a guided process?
Sometimes I use a guided meditation. I'll use Insight Timer. They have apps where you can put in whatever you like and then choose a guided meditation. Those are amazing.
And so it tells you what to think about and shit like that?
Yeah, it takes you through,
Yeah. Is it kind of like a program where you pick I want to do a 10-minute, a 20-minute, whatever, and you do how long?
20 minutes.
20 minutes,
twice a day.
No shit. Do you try to break it up 12 hours apart or?
I do it in the morning and then I do it either mid-afternoon in clinic or when I get home.
Okay.
And I often meditate with Shane. We meditate together.
Yeah. How does that work? I mean, you're just in the same room, or is there? It's not like a team effort kind of thing. You're just doing it at the same time. Yeah. All right. So, from a mental health standpoint, I know you said you spent a couple of years doing psychology and things of that nature. Aside from meditating, is there any thing you can address as it relates to focusing on mental health and what people can do to help themselves as far as that goes?
I think having a really good support team. A lot of individuals go for therapy, and therapy, talking about the same thing over and over again, rarely gets anyone better.
Yeah.
Doing more advanced things like hypnotherapy or meditation to silence the mind so you clear away the cobwebs to see what actually exists, and getting someone that isn't going to coddle you. I think a lot of times in life, we have this way of being too gentle with ourselves.
Yeah.
That is not going to get anyone better.
Yeah.
You need someone who is going to really hold you accountable. There are great life coaches out there. I use the Hendel group. I recommend them to my patients, where it's really kind of about toughening up and not telling the same story over and over again.
Yeah.
With that being said, there are some significant effects depending on what individuals have been through in their life, and they may need more intensive help.
Yeah.
And with that, you find a good therapist who is not necessarily just utilizing talk therapy.
Yeah.
Because you won't get better that way.
Sure. One thing I think I already know the answer. I mean, I don't mean to ask a leading question, I guess, but I'm curious, in your practice of all the patients that you've seen, have you had any experience where somebody will come in with either moderate to significant mental health issues that nutrition almost completely fixed or had a significant impact on?
Mental health issues are tricky. If it is a brain chemical disorder, nutrition can get them far, but there are likely other components like Lyme disease or some neurological head trauma, something else that's happened.
So, mentioning Lyme disease, what's have you had experience with?
I have.
So
I don't treat it. I refer it out if someone has it, but I test almost all my patients that come in with any kind of neurological or dizziness, or all of a sudden they're having some kind of balance issues or joint pain that is moving. You test them for Lyme.
So, the way I understand Lyme disease, as it's a bloodborne parasite. Is that something where once you've had it, there's going to be permanent effects?
It can be, if you catch it early enough, it can be treated. And there's multiple co-infections. I just tested one girl who was has been chronically constipated and is starting to have these dizzy episodes, and she doesn't have any cardiac issues. She's been worked up. Neurologist says she's fine. This is a girl who's from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
There's a high probability she runs in the woods.
Yeah.
High probability she's been bitten.
And so is that something where, like, let's say it happened years ago and they didn't catch it or whatever?
It's there.
Then, like, your
I mean, some people can clear it.
Yeah.
I've had friends that have actually cleared it without treatment, but oftentimes people cannot.
What is the what is that process of clearing?
That is, you do not want to get Lyme.
Yeah.
It is rough. It is multiple antibiotics, IV antibiotics. It's a very intensive, at least a year-long process. I've never seen it cleared quickly.
Yeah. If it's something where somebody had it like as a kid and now they're adult and they have problems, or is it?
It will likely show up as an old infection, and maybe that individual has cleared it.
Yeah. Okay. Have you seen issues where there are current day issues from having it years ago?
Absolutely.
And those are things you can't do anything about?
It's rough because a lot of the patients, I have one girl she'll go through episodes where she can't walk.
Jesus.
And
that's some gnarly shit.
It's gnarly.
Yeah.
You do not want Lyme. Because it destroys your nervous system in many levels.
Is there any supplement or anything you can do to help minimize any of that, or that you know?
No, that is not something I would treat naturally. Many people do.
Yeah.
But I come from the school of medicine where you do the best of evidence-based with the best of alternative, and I combine the two.
Yeah. So kind of the best of everything. What about, like, if it's been cleared but they have after effects? Is there anything?
Then that's when someone would go to maybe a more gentle herbal kind of.
Yeah. Any examples of what those would be?
No, I would refer that out.
Yeah. Okay.
If you specialize in Lyme, that is all you do, and that is
okay.
pretty
significant.
Significant.
All right. So, anything else on mental health tips, supplements, things that help with that? Other than I know one of the questions was CBD oil.
It's great for sleep. CBD oil can be great for sleep.
Yeah. In terms of mental cognition health, I know I've seen help with it in me personally, and not that I can tell if a dog thinks clear or not, but I've seen a lot of benefits in our dogs having given it to them. Have you had much experience with it?
Mm-hmm. CBD or just in general, other things?
Yeah, in general. Both.
Omegas work phenomenal. You can go to a higher dose omega-3.
Does First Form sell those as well?
First Form has them. Which one else? Designs for Health has omegas as well. The other aspect to that is you can do intranasal, so you can do nasal spray. Mm-hmm. And there's a nasal spray that's prescription. It's called Synapsin. And it has ginkgo biloba, which is good for the brain. It has B vitamins, methylated B complex.
Okay.
Those things are Hersperdine. There's something called Hersperdine, which is, they've done a lot of research in terms of brain health and neurotransmitters. The other thing is creatine.
Really?
Creatine has been shown to help with brain function.
Is there any concern with kidney stones being hard on liver and kidney with taking it?
If you have issues with those things, then you want to minimize any insult.
Yeah.
But if you are healthy, then you shouldn't have any problems.
And is it something that you would take sustained, or you would want to cycle it?
I recommend cycling all supplements,
yeah,
including the standard run-of-the-mill supplements,
yeah,
because the body needs to go through periods where it just has a break.
Yeah.
And this is just my own personal perspective.
Yeah. Okay. It's all good to know. All right. Before we finish it, one of the things we did is we solicited our social media following to submit some questions. All right, so a couple of them. One of them is woman specific, I guess, is the pill. What is your take on that in terms of safety? Obviously, it's effective, but anytime you are manipulating hormones, what's your take on it? I guess
I don't recommend that you eat your estrogen.
Yeah,
I think that from my clinic, what I've seen is the ability for an individual to get their period back takes some time.
Yeah.
Also found that the pill can affect their digestive tract, their gut flora, and it can be pretty rough for women. And also it's masking whatever symptoms. So if an individual is taking it for PMS, you might as well figure out a way to find out what the problem is and address it.
So
Alternatively.
for the people, or for the women rather, that take it because their cycle is excruciatingly hard on them or something, that it's addressing the symptom and not the problem.
Right. You
Yeah.
can find an alternative way, for example, a bioidentical, which you can then balance estrogen and progesterone.
Yeah. I guess so. In
affect
terms
those
of why most people use it is to not get pregnant. I mean, do you think the pill for contraceptive reasons is worth the trade off of?
I don't.
Yeah.
I would make another choice. I would use copper IUD. There is risks with that,
Yeah.
but it's non-hormonal.
Yeah.
But you can, of course, perforate your
Yeah. There's other
lady parts. Yeah.
Yeah. Christ. Now I'm sidetracked. All right. So another question: reducing cortisol and inflammation, kind of across the board. I know inflammation is kind of a big buzzword to a certain extent. In the nutrition community nowadays, whether it's inflammation of your blood, inflammation of your joints, pH levels, things of that nature. Can you kind of talk to both
Sure.
of those?
The key in reducing inflammation is to determine where it comes from. Is it your nutrition? Are you overtraining? Some inflammation post-training is good because it's allowing the body to do what it does. Chronic inflammation is where you have an issue.
Yeah.
And determining what that cause is, whether it's leaky gut, pathogens, or excess load, poor nutrient status,
Yeah.
those kinds of things.
Is if it is derived from nutrition or diet, would some sort of food test be able to identify that, or how would you identify where it comes from? I guess.
Well, it's usually the first thing that I clean up. I always clean up the nutritional side.
Yeah.
By nature. I tend to eliminate, again, the common allergens, which are corn, soy, eggs, peanuts, and milk.
Yeah.
And gluten.
Dairy across the board?
It is not for everybody.
Yeah.
But if an individual is symptomatic, you eliminate those things, allow the body to settle, whether it's 60 days, 30 days, 60 days, and then you begin to add it in. You add one thing at a time, and I add them in every fourth day.
Okay.
So you'll have eggs, then on the fourth day, you'll add it in again.
So
you'll see how you feel.
Do you find percentage-wise, or of the patients you come in that you do this with, that many of them are allergic to eggs, or that they have problems with them?
Individuals that have impaired gut integrity have issues with those foods.
Really?
For sure.
Yeah. Like pretty much across the board on all of them.
Often, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And they get substantially better when they eliminate it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be forever, and then you can reintroduce.
Okay. So kind of hitting the reset button, and then you can have them occasionally or
And
more
also
often.
getting on a good gut repair program.
Yeah.
There are things that you can do. There are medical shakes that you can take. There are protocols that you can follow.
Would AIP fall under that? Can you talk about that a little bit?
AIP is autoimmune paleo. I think that it's a great starting point for individuals, especially if they have arthritis or joint pain. It eliminates nightshades and many of those other things that we spoke about.
Yeah. I know there's, with Oso Bones is usually the bone broth that I order if I don't get it local, but they have kind of an AIP line of stuff. Bone broth, big fan or not? Or
Bone broth is collagen.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are other nutrients in it, and it's a great supplement to an already good diet.
Yeah. But not a magic elixir or snake oil like some.
There is no such thing.
Yeah.
Except for testosterone.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
For guys, right? It'll make them think that. Reducing cortisol, same as inflammation, is that kind of hand in foot?
We spoke about ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is believed to help modulate cortisol ebbs and flows.
Okay.
And you could take 500 milligrams twice a day
Okay.
of that.
Good stuff. Is it necessary to hit macros for muscle growth?
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Of course.
Can you talk to what that looks like?
Would be proteins, carbohydrates, and fat. In terms of muscle growth, protein is arguably the most important. It is important when you're young. You can kind of get away with eating Twinkies and whatever you want.
Yeah.
If you can think about it. When you're in high school, you can do whatever you want until you screw up and you still grow.
Yeah.
Probably in college too. But as you age, getting those macronutrient ratios right is key.
Yeah.
Proteins first. I tend to recommend for individuals who are starting a 1-to-1 ratio, protein to carbohydrates, if they're pretty active.
Yeah. And again, as you get older, you want as close to finishing your workout as possible.
Yeah.
One thing, not necessarily from, obviously like extended or endurance performance athletes is kind of a different category,
Yeah.
but is there a length of workout in which you would say don't exceed X, or if you're going to do it for this amount of time that you would want to take something in?
It's tricky. I've thought about this a lot because what I've read is, for every hour of exercise or intensive exercise, you'll need a certain amount of carbohydrates. I think it's variable for every individual. The gels have a 4-to-1 ratio of carbohydrates to protein. The gels, I think it is individual.
Yeah.
With that, especially when it comes to endurance, because there's some endurance athletes that are doing keto.
Yeah. Which is, it's funny, or not funny you mention it, but interestingly, I remember doing a cold weather trip to Kodiak, Alaska, in the SEAL teams as an instructor, actually. But some of the staff there had been in contact and cross-trained with some real fucking like balls to the wall mountaineering, like cold weather extreme mountaineering guys that had experimented with similar types of, I hadn't heard of keto. You wouldn't have heard it back then. This was back in the early 2000s, but we're basically doing that, had guys that had failed summiting Everest or failed, certain, significant long endurance type of activities that went because they were doing super high carbs and it was, it's like JP5 or like high octane fuel. It's great when you're constantly getting in, but it burns so fast and so hot that, when it runs out, you just fucking nose bomb.
Right.
It's kind of like, high octane gas versus diesel fuel. And so some of these guys, even back then, were saying, hey, we've kind of, reconfigured our nutrition plan of taking, like they would take sticks of fucking butter with them.
Yeah.
And so they'd take like a Mountain House meal and they'd have like a fucking stick of butter in each one of them. And we're one of the guys in particular that was kind of a pioneer as it relates to that, had been able to significantly increase his performance by using, super, super high levels of fat for that type of stuff. But I mean to get off on a tangent.
No, but definitely. And also a good ratio is a 1-to-1 ratio of protein to carbohydrates.
Yeah.
Typically, and then there's some data to suggest that you don't want fat around your training.
Yeah.
It really depends on your metabolism and your individual biochemistry.
And probably the exertion level as well, right? All right, best source of recommended simple sugars or sources.
Whatever you want.
Yeah, apples, fucking whatever.
So that's fructose, largely fructose, simple sugars, so that would count.
Yeah.
Berries are great. They're low glycemic, high fiber, good phytonutrients.
If there's three top ones you could recommend, could you recommend them?
For simple sugars, yeah, I would say berries are great.
Any type of berry, raspberry, blueberry, blackberry, whatever?
That's probably my top 3 recommendations.
Yeah.
I'm not really big into recommending sugars for individuals.
Yeah.
Because it's not something that I tend to utilize unless, of course, you're an endurance athlete. And then they use powders or dextrose, those kinds of things.
Could you list kind of a handful of carb sources that you would recommend? If
Sweet potato is great. Some individuals love oatmeal. These more clean, complex. Rice is great, easy to digest.
On the oatmeal and the rice, does it matter steel cut versus not?
There's instant, which is faster absorbing, and of course the steel cut takes longer.
Yeah, it's less convenient. What about
Exactly.
On rice? Does it matter what kind of rice?
A lot of people tolerate white rice better.
Really? What about like it would basmati and jasmine, and would that all fall into that same?
They're all in the same. I mean, they're not processed.
Yeah.
If they like the taste of it.
Yeah.
It works.
What about stuff like pastas and risottos and shit?
I don't recommend that.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's bad if your calories are controlled.
Yeah.
But I do find people don't do as well on gluten.
Yeah. So
Oatmeal, sweet potato, squash is great.
Even white rice.
White
Give them
rice.
thumbs up on white rice.
Well,
Nothing wrong.
yeah.
Sort of.
It's not really nutrient dense.
Yeah.
But if you are an athlete and you need to get the carbohydrates, they could use plantains are excellent.
Yeah.
Cook and let them cool.
Okay. Nutrient timing before bed. And I know that's going to be it. Fucking
I don't think it
depends,
matters.
but, yeah.
I do have a lot of women who tend to eat carbs later on in the day. And those individuals that say have lost their period or wake up in the middle of the night hungry.
Yeah.
Or, I'm sure you have got people that wake up and they're starving. They should have a higher carbohydrate meal that's balanced with protein and fat before bed.
Yeah. I know for me personally, I don't know if you're familiar with Ben Greenfield or not. I listened to he seems a little fucking over the top in some ways, but one of the things he recommended that I tried that actually it seemed to work fairly well function-wise, performance-wise, was eating almost like keto for the first or the majority of the day, and then having your carb kind of load at night for sleep and for glycogen replenishment.
Yes. I think that's an excellent strategy.
Yeah. Okay. So there you have it.
I utilize that with a lot of my patients.
It's corroborated, goddammit. One of the questions is running an outdated modality for training.
Why would you train to retreat? I'm just kidding.
That's a team guy wife right there. Fucking love it.
I'm well trained.
Yeah.
He would say that to me when I say, "Come on, honey, let's go run."
Who's shooting at us? Fuck you! I'm staying here.
Yeah.
How about we run?
It's not outdated. You should have you should have good mechanics.
Yeah.
But if you're built to do it and you love to do it, amazing.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I mean, to me, it's I guess cardio in general, whether it's running, rowing, whatever is that. Kind of dovetailing on to the recommendation of primarily resistance or weight training is, I guess, how would you couch that in terms of where it would fit into?
It's important. It's important to have the cardiovascular capacity. I recommend HIIT training because that is time efficient and also improves insulin sensitivity in the muscle and has a faster capacity to affect your metabolism in a positive way.
Yeah.
But it's important. They're all our bodies were designed to move.
Yeah.
It's our currency.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think like with anything is two things: is something's better than nothing, and you've got to balance your shit. Like if all you're doing is lifting heavy shit and low reps, high weights, whatever, that's an imbalance. Just like if all you're doing is running, it's an imbalance.
Right.
Sugar substitutes, alternatives to it for those of us like me that have a sweet tooth, and I'll be the first to admit, like diet soda, as bad as it is, I fucking drink it.
Oh gosh.
But
people go back and forth. I have a newsletter, and one of the things I sent out was a review on aspartame.
Yeah.
It was interesting because the data doesn't necessarily support negative effects. Mm-hmm. Personally, my experience is it can be really addictive, and it also can affect. We don't know how it affects gut microbiome.
Yeah.
Do we think that it increases sweet tooth? The data suggests that it doesn't, but my experience is that it does.
Yeah.
My own personal experience. Do you find that if you have it, you want more?
Of it, yes. And I think part of it is that I wouldn't say I grew up drinking it, but I remember the first time I ever had, like my parents drank Diet Coke growing up. And so they didn't let me drink any until I was a little older. I mean, I wasn't drinking it at 5 or anything, but around when I was starting to be a teenager is when they started to let me drink some of that. And so I kind of grew up with that as part of my palate, I guess. And so I've drank it, most of my life. I find that for me, like when I eat, I don't like to have beer or wine or water. Like carbonated sweet drinks when I eat is what I want. I find myself craving that. I mean, not like to the point where it's like, I can't eat unless I have this. I mean, it's not that bad, but for sure that's my preference. I don't find that it affects my desire to have sweets outside of that. Like it's not like I find, okay, and if I'm drinking more diet soda now, I want cookies and brownies and Twinkies and shit. I just find that I want more of that, but I kind of always want it,
All right. So you're planning on giving it up tomorrow?
Probably not. Stevia. What about like the stevia-based
I think
sodas?
they're fine.
Same.
They're fine.
That's all right. So if you like,
if I had to choose one or the other, I would choose a stevia-based soda.
So a stevia fake Mountain Dew is all right.
A Zevia, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I know
to me, it
those
just
very
tastes
well.
like shit, though.
Yeah, it does. Just hold your nose, drink it. It's fine.
I mean, for me, it's too sweet. Like if they put a little less stevia, I think it would be very good. But I don't know. That's my take on it. Not that anybody gives a shit. But all right. Any other alternatives to monk fruit or fucking whatever? I mean, is there anything you can?
No. I think stevia is the big one.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend agave. That's high in sugar.
Yeah.
It's not really a sugar alternative. And the less, typically I recommend the less sugar, the better.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's one of the things where I know refined sugar and pick whatever they put it in, which it's in almost everything. I mean, to me, like from a cancer carcinogen feeding problems, like that's probably the number one culprit. Would you agree?
Yes, I would.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Excess calorie consumption with excess carbohydrates is definitely a driver.
Yeah.
It might not be an initiation factor, but it was definitely a driver.
Yeah. Any natural ways to increase testosterone?
Not that work.
Yeah.
Gotta
you mean
say,
that alpha male pill I got at GNC
does not work.
Helping?
I mean, you can sleep and get enough zinc and these things, but not that substantially work that I've seen.
Yeah. That was one of the questions. One of the Instagram questions was a guy had stopped taking, he'd gotten the pellets for testosterone replacement.
Not a great idea.
And stopped doing it and wanted to try to take, so you say injections over the pellets.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Pellets, once they're in and the dose is wrong,
yeah, you're shit out of luck.
There you go.
If it's too high, you're fucked. And if it's too low, you're fucked.
But injections work if someone has a poor lipid profile, so their cholesterol is high, the bad cholesterol is high, and they use topical transdermal gel will not only improve their testosterone but also help with their lipid profile.
Oh, really? And does that prove to be as effective as?
It can be.
Yeah,
it can be.
Same kind of thing. Like you'd have to play with the dosage type.
Yeah, and you have to rub it in certain areas and make sure that they're really well rubbed in. Sure, you can guess what that is. It's true.
So I guess the other thing too, I mean, is there any concern with like if you have young kids and them,
the transference is an issue.
Yeah. That's interesting. Is there, I mean, I've never messed with it, but do you know if there is a shelf life of like, once it's rubbed in, you have to wait X number of minutes or?
Definitely should wait a couple hours.
No shit.
You got to make sure it's all absorbed.
Yeah.
The other option is the testosterone injection does not have to be in the muscle.
Yeah.
I recommend when my patients are taking injectable that it's sub-Q.
Yeah. Is that just from a
it's easier.
Okay.
And it's not just, I tend to use a mix of cypionate and propionate, and I don't give it once a week, right?
Yeah.
It's a few times a week.
Okay. Do they make patches?
They do. I don't typically use those.
Yeah. It's kind of the same as pellets, like.
No, I find that either shots or cream are more effective.
Yeah. Okay. Magnesium supplement past 40. Somebody was asking about
magnesium supplement any age.
Yeah.
Magnesium glycinate.
Would that be in the first farm multivitamin?
I would take an extra magnesium.
Yeah. As a base?
Yes, yeah. I do. I recommend 400 to 600 milligrams. Easy.
Okay.
And I recommend magnesium glycinate. And that's really easy to get anywhere. Everyone should take it. If you're on testosterone, you should take it.
Would you throw zinc in that same category?
That should be in a good multi.
Okay. So the only thing you'd add to our foundation list is the magnesium. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. And then the last question that we had, we're going to punt this one, but just so that...
it was a good question, but it should really be...
this is E. Cradleinator. Says, Mike, I have a challenge, very personal question, and it basically highlights a collegiate athlete who has type 1 diabetes and is having some issues. Her recommendation was for sure you need to see a specialist.
Yeah.
And I'll let you...
I think he was getting hypoglycemic in the morning.
Yeah.
So having a resistant starch may be something good. So having a potato that you cool and have the next day. Mm-hmm. Or there's the starchy, like 3-carb fuel, which is a really kind of thick, waxy maize.
Yeah.
Can be very sustaining. But again, if you're type 1 diabetic, that's something that you really want to talk with their specialists about.
Yeah, like a diabetes specialist for that.
Yeah, or sport specific.
Okay.
There's people that specialize in that.
Yeah, okay. Last question, biohacking. I read something just the other day that said... the prediction, and I mean, take it with a grain of salt, like with everything, but that was that anybody that's 40 years old or younger can pretty much guarantee on living for several hundred years because of this biohacking bullshit.
Oh my gosh.
Like, what?
I mean, that's ridiculous.
I guess what's your take on biohacking across the board, though? Like,
there's no shortcut to hard work.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do things really well, and that is essential to longevity.
mm-hmm.
But the concept of biohacking is a little confusing to me. Just do the right thing and be smart about it.
Yeah. Okay. Where can two things? If you could kind of highlight and outline all of the services that you provide and offer, that if people want to utilize those, what are they, and where can we find you and them?
Absolutely. The services that I offer, obviously I'm a physician. I see really one overall group of people, and those are anyone that want to get the best out of themselves.
Yeah.
Within that group, I see special operators, and they can contact me directly through either Instagram or my website, and I'm happy to help that community. Or they can contact a group called Task Force Dagger and express their need or their interest to work with me, and Task Force Dagger will get in touch with me. This is a foundation you should know about, which I'm sure you'll hear more about.
Yeah.
They have amazing services to the...
Shout out to Task Force Dagger.
Yeah, Task Force Dagger. You can check out their website.
Yeah.
Individuals can find me on Instagram at Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, and the same is Facebook and Twitter. And I'm in New York City. Hopefully I will have a bi-coastal office soon in San Diego, working towards that.
Yeah. Is your website a good resource to kind of read more about what you do and
they
what
can absolutely read more about what I do. I'm very active. Oh, my website is drgabriellelyon.com.
Okay.
And I'm very active on Instagram.
Yeah. Well, rock and roll. Any alibis you have? Anything you want to add before we close up shop here?
Not that I can think about. Oh, yes, one other thing.
Yeah.
And Jason Redman wanted me to tell you hello.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I am part of his Speakers Bureau.
Oh, sweet.
So
Eagle Rise, right?
Eagle Rise Speakers Bureau. So if anyone, I definitely come and I talk to executives and corporations about overall wellness and optimization.
Do you do any kind of like workshops that you set up outside of people bringing you in? Do you offer anything like that?
I will be working with Eagle Rise Speakers Bureau to help set something up.
Okay.
But otherwise, people usually bring me in and outline. We do a day or a half day or lunchtime.
Yeah. Sweet. All right. Well, right on. Anything else, Shane? Any input? Anything we missed?
All right. I didn't fold my laundry.
A couple online programs coming.
Yes, we do have some online programs coming. I'm going to be launching a 28-day program, and then the kind of medicine that I practice, muscle-centric medicine, I will be launching online education.
Sweet.
For that.
Well, and will that be accessible from your website?
It will be.
Okay. drgabriellelyon.com, as you heard it. And again, there will be a shitload of show notes and links to all this stuff. And I'll certainly keep you guys abreast of the progress that I have with all of this stuff, as well as her guidance. So I'm damn sure looking forward to that. And I appreciate the offer. It's very kind.
Yeah.
Again, I cannot thank you guys enough for coming. I know it's a long way out here, and all of this information is wildly valuable to our listeners, and I always like to give them as much as I can for normal layman's day-to-day shit. Not so far in the weeds to where it's over their head, but not so generalized to where it's like you can figure that shit out on Google in 2 minutes. So I think you struck a great mix of finding that happy medium. As always, I want to thank you guys, the listener. Without your support, we would not have the ability to do what we do and bring in phenomenal guests such as Dr. Lyon. And so I appreciate your weekly and monthly support. If you want to support the podcast, go to MikeRitland.com, and there is a podcast support element there, as well as all the products that we already offer: the CBD oil, the collar and leash, and then the crates, the dog food, and all the other products that'll be coming online will be off of Tricos.com, MikeRitland.com. If you have a dog, go to teamdog.pet, or you can choke yourself and then go do it. Again, thank you guys. I appreciate all of y'all's support. And until next time, this is Mike Drop.